The physical implications of extra dimensions. Years of research dating back to Kaluza's original paper have shown that even though any extra dimensions that physicists propose must be smaller than what our equipment can directly see, they do have important indirect effects on the physics that we observe. In string theory, this connection between the microscopic properties of space and the physics we observe is particularly transparent. To understand this, you need to recall that masses and charges of particles in string theory are determined by the possible resonant vibrational string patterns. Picture a tiny string as it moves and oscillates, and you will realize that the resonant patterns are influenced by its spatial surroundings. Like, I've never read the word resonant so many times in one place other than Destiny.
I'm listening to Bernard speak, yeah.
But it's really interesting because basically what they're explaining is the extra dimensions, other than the 3 that we observe plus time, the extra dimensions are not okay. Actually, let me say this. Okay, I tested this with Katie to see like how she saw it too. She had the same point I did. So if I say to you, there's other dimensions, where does your mind go in terms of how it conceptualizes like where they
outer
are?
space.
Okay,
Somewhere
outer
else.
space.
Yeah.
Somewhere out there.
Not
I think of like the
Versus-
unseen, like the Wi-Fi and like.
Okay, so it's like here, but you can't see it, or maybe it's like around us, so it's like we're just such a small part of it we don't see it, or something
Like
that.
those horror movies you watch
Uh-huh.
where you go into the land of the dead or whatever, when it's
Yeah.
like right in front of you. It's
Right.
in a setting, but it's in a different dimension.
It's just like zoom, now you
Dimension
can
of the
see it or
dead.
something. Right.
Mhm.
What's really cool is when you read out string theory, in the theory of string theory, I'm not saying this is how reality works, I'm saying this theory of string theory. There's 6 dimensions, but they're not out here, which is when people hear that, when you hear like on popular science, it's like science says there's 11 dimensions. You're like, oh, wow, all these things, right? Well, what they're saying is that there's 6 dimensions that if you take just a single point of space and you zoom in really, really, really far, as tiny as you can possibly physically go, there's 6 other dimensions which represent the ways in which a tiny string can vibrate. It can vibrate in these 6 other dimensions, and the way those dimensions are formed around each other is how the string can vibrate within them. And it's those restrictions that make the string only be able to vibrate in certain patterns, which they call resonant patterns.
Mhm.
And then that is what, in a big scale, creates what we see outside of us as the larger 3 dimensions.
Wow.
So we tend to think of those 3 dimensions that we're in as the smaller of the dimensions, but in string theory, it's the biggest. It's like the biggest you can possibly get. It's the most coarse. And so the tinier you go, their theory is that everything is composed of little tiny one-dimensional strings that vibrate in these 6 different dimensional ways, which, for example, do you remember studying in school about electrons and how electrons can spin, right? And they taught you that they can have a positive or a negative half spin. I think that's what they taught us, right?
Ooh,
Well, what?
testing my knowledge here. Testing my.
I don't remember half spin, but I remember orbits for sure.
I don't remember them teaching this.
It depends
in
if
my
you
high school.
took, well, in the United States, they have AP chemistry. We call it AP, which means like if you take this course and then you take the test at the end of the year and you get a certain score, certain colleges will take that and they'll just give you the college credit for that course without you taking it in college. So
Right.
it's kind of like you're taking it in advance, but it doesn't guarantee anything unless they accept the score. Then there's like regular chemistry, which is high school based chemistry, and there's honors and things like that too. So, but I went to a private school, so even in our normal chemistry course, we learned also, that's an honors course, but we even learned about quantum. It was like the quantum model of the atom.
Okay.
And so within that, you learn about each electron has a certain specific position based on different properties that it has. And no 2 electrons can have the exact same values for all of those different properties, right? That's called the Pauli exclusion principle. So they literally can't occupy the same space, because to occupy the same space would mean all the values, their spin, their angular momentum, all these different values would have to exactly be the same for them to be in the same spot. So the Pauli exclusion principle is you can't have that happen, right? which is interesting if you think about resonance. Okay, how does homeopathy supposed to work? Right? It's that you're matching the exact resonance of that thing. Wouldn't that mean you're trying to occupy the exact same place? It cancels itself out, which is pretty interesting, right? But going back to my point about the electrons, they told you they're supposed to spin in different ways. That's at the quantum mechanics level, it's a very complex meaning of the word spin. Like we just think of it as like spin is like, going around like this, right?
Yeah.
But in the quantum mechanics definition, it's more mathematical, it's more rigid, it's more formal than that, literally that, right? But in essence, it's kind of like something spinning. And they're making this point in this book about, well, all of physics up to a certain point prior to string theory, the standard model is based on, like, let me ask you this, what is an electron? It's supposed to be a point in space. And the dimensions of it are supposed to be no dimensions.
What?
Right. And so then you always hear like, well, it's literally empty space.
Mm-hmm.
So all this empty space adds up to matter somehow. Well, it's just a vibration. It's just a electron cloud. It's just a probability. It's not a physical thing. Right? That's what you hear, right? And so even up the high school, the chemistry you study in high school takes you to that point. Well, it's interesting because this book about string theory, they're saying the idea of strings, they actually take up space. They actually have a spatial extension to them. They're not just abstract nothing. They're not just a point which is abstract, which isn't real. And
that's what I heard about strings. That strings are like electrons, they have a mass to it. And it's the space between the nucleus and the electrons that is like so vast, it's crazy, that basically there's nothing. But within electrons, the strings and the quarks are basically nothing. That's what I've heard.
See, but what the string theory is that the strings actually have a spatial
property too.
Aspect to them. And there's a certain smallest size that we can get to in physical reality. And that's the smallest possible thing. And then it's those things vibrating, kind of like strings on a violin. It's those things vibrating in specific patterns, which are constrained by those 6 dimensions. They can't just vibrate in any which way. But when they vibrate a certain way, the expression of that is an electron. When they vibrate in a different way, the expression of that is a graviton, which is like a gravitational particle. They're like an atom or a quark or an electron or whatever. So it's these strings vibrating in certain patterns. Huh?
On a macro level, you can see that as like human beings. Like Drake over there is resonating completely differently than I am. Well, not completely, but in a lot of ways different, just because all those different factors that are affecting where he's at, his location, the people around him, all the different things that compose his body, all the life that he's lived to lead him up to this point, all of that, and whatever other factors affects him is why he is the way he is in this very moment.
That's a good point. It's like DNA. Like we all have DNA, but dependent on the information in the DNA, we look all very different and we express ourselves differently.
That's a really cool point.
But yeah, keep going with this, Cameron, man.
Yeah.
Well, then if you look at it at a certain level, the words are stored physically in your body.
Oh shit.
They have to be, right? I mean, logically. And so think about it. Scientists are like, well, where in the brain? It's the neurons, it's all this stuff. And it's like, no, it's the cells of your physical body are storing this information by taking on certain geometrical patterns and arrangements. Just like think about a water molecule when they freeze. Like when water molecules freeze, how these complex patterns they can take on, totally different patterns, right?
True.
So the point being that the way in which the dimensions are, it actually shapes and limits the way in which the strings can vibrate, right? Which means the way it can express itself. And so your vocabulary is the same way, isn't it? The way in which that is structured is going to limit the way in which you express yourself, 100%.
Wow.
People who don't even have the vocabulary of anything beyond survival, going to work, hanging out with your friends, drama between each other, cheating on each other, taking sides, all that kind of bullshit, which is reinforced by TV and all these other things. right? And by what children see when they're little.
And
You
music,
think
right,
about it,
Mitch?
when you're a child, you're so,
I
Yes.
said, and it's reinforced by music, right, Mitch?
And
Bro,
music
don't you
also,
go
yeah.
hating on Linkin Park. They've helped me through some hard times.
I was literally about to say Limp Bizkit.
No,
But-
man, very different.
Whatever.
very different.
But Cameron, do you know
Linkin
like
Park.
Mitch posted like a post about Linkin Park?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, Cam was jumping in there.
Okay.
I know.
You
Yeah,
it's
I was
kind of like a
getting- I was
mosh
getting
pit.
down and
It's like
dirty.
you jump in, throw some punches.
Oh, I threw some body slams. I didn't throw punches. I
That's
was like,
great.
"Ah, ah."
I was playing good cop.
You were. I was
That's
like,
fine.
yeah, Cam.
Cam,
I
you're
see
so
you.
tame.
Look
So
at
let's do a mic check.
playing
real-
the fatherly figure that's in sales.
I feel like we've already started the podcast, but let's,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know we- I
definitely.
know we
Probably.
jumped into it. How's my mic?
It sounds
1,
good.
2, 3, 4. Yeah.
How's ours?
I have a question for you guys. I was just wondering about this. Should people, if they're watching the video right now, should they be liking the video?
They should be liking it.
Thumbs
What
up
about,
or
like-
thumbs down?
What about this subscribing thing? Should they do that?
They should
Or
also
no, don't
subscribe.
do that?
No,
Do that?
Yes, definitely do
Press
that.
that share
Oh,
button.
okay, okay, okay.
Only
Copy
wanna
it.
do-
That makes it fit.
Send
What
it
was
to
going on?
everyone in
But
your
What if
sharing.
I only want to do one of this?
If
What
you
would
only
you-
want to do
sharing?
one, I would share it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Share it. That's the most important one.
But
But-
then if you want to get juicy and get some extra brownie points, you can leave a comment.
Yeah.
That
Comment.
would
like,
that would be so
really.
shenanigans.
I don't know if you guys heard this concept, right? but
I
it's-
don't guarantee anything.
It's a-
Whatever Jess does, if you comment, that is not on me.
She's gonna give you brownies. That's what I heard. She's gonna
I
give
don't
you
know what's in
brownies.
these brownies. Yes,
Just comment your address in the
the
comments.
truth brownies. Just the best way you can support the channel is to dox yourself. Okay.
But yeah, definitely like, comment, subscribe, and share because you never know who's
Yeah.
going to listen to this and actually make a difference in their life.
100%.
You know, people listen to it even if they don't like it.
Yeah.
I know, isn't that great?
And it's so funny. People share it and they're like, "Can you believe this bullshit?"
We're like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I'm like, you just told somebody else to watch it. Oh
love that.
boy.
Yeah, but it's
so
like, all
what else?
publicity is good publicity. So
Yeah, exactly.
hate on us, love on us, whatever you want to do. Sounds good.
When you're certain, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah.
No one
No.
can fuck with you, right?
Right.
So what else? What else we want to talk about today?
Well,
We talked
here's-
about
here's-
dimensions.
So on this point of the dimensions here, this is like something I've been noticing. I kind of brought it up last week when we were talking about how reality goes from matter to energy. Do you know, Cameron, the actual process by which energy gets converted back into matter? Because for those who are like into like destiny, like understanding the self-forgiveness, understanding how we take matter and we like rip it apart and turn it into energy. How does the reverse happen? Because I tried looking it up on Google and it was a lot.
Are you talking
I
about
just-
like in physics? You mean?
in physics, yeah, and then also in the sense of like when you're doing self-forgiveness, how that's taking these points of energy where you'll go into conflict and then neutralizing it in a sense, or like deleting it. So
Mhm.
kind of in both perspectives.
Well, I wouldn't say that you can turn energy back into matter. I'm not saying that it's not possible,
Hmm.
but I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at just stop doing what you're doing. Now, how can you turn energy into matter from a certain perspective is if you're not busy just trying to turn things into energy, then what are you doing with your natural energy of your body?
Mhm.
Are you
Right.
creating
Yeah.
things? Are you doing things? Hold on. Are you doing things that matter?
Oh,
You understand? That's the more important point. Instead of it being an energy versus matter thing, it's like, is what you're doing, does what you're doing matter or not? Or are you just trying to get energy for yourself, which means you're just abusing life? There's a really cool book I was reading. And in the end of the book, it's this book that takes place over like literally millions of years, right? And into the future. And it was really cool because at the end of it, these people isolate themselves into a little tiny reality that they were created with like really advanced technology, and where it's like self-sustaining and it's separate from the universe. So even if the universe dies, they can just continue on experiencing their little tiny world that they have, almost like think of it like a spaceship in a way. And it was really cool because at one point at the end, they get this message. it's like they can still receive information from the outside universe to kind of keep tabs on it, but they can't send information out. But they get this message. It's kind of like a beacon that was sent out that says, okay, all of you people who created all these little tiny realities for yourself, we have a problem, which is that the universe is dissipating, and you've removed so much energy that it can't collapse back in on itself to continue the cycle. So basically all life is going to be extinguished forever because you're basically being selfish, right?
Wow.
And it's really cool because in the book, the people are like, all right, we're going to like dismantle our little thing. We're going to go back into reality, into the universe, and like live out the rest of our lives and not just try to like live forever with our little bubble when we just were responsible for destroying everything. And it was cool because
That's a cool story.
there was a man and a woman, and the guy's like, well, but there's no way that our little tiny universe reality that we have in itself is going to make any difference whatsoever, because there's got to be millions of people doing the same thing we're doing. So like, it's not going to make a difference. She said, well, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not going to be the one that didn't do it. Right.
That's awesome.
So it's just really interesting, that whole
It's
point.
like who
Because
you are.
yeah, it's like literally the destiny.
Yeah,
point,
isn't that
isn't
what Bernard did in that whole heaven process, everything?
Exactly. Remove that which isn't real. Right. And so when something's not real, it can't stand in front of you. That's why we were saying earlier, people try to fuck with us. Like if they try to say shit or if they try to shame you or make you feel bad because you're saying something that matters. I mean, think about it. You're with your old friends, right? And they just want to sit around and smoke and drink and watch TV, right? And then you want to talk about something that actually matters. And what are they like?
Nah,
bro, like come on, bro.
Subject.
you're killing
Yeah, like where are you getting so?
I was thinking of that phrase, you suck. Like suck what? Like suck within itself is
Suck butts.
it's you're just sucking the energy out of the situation.
Yeah.
It's like you suck.
Yeah, exactly. They're sucking the
That
energy
within
out of it.
itself isn't like it's a verb. It's like you run. You know what I mean? Like how is it an adjective in what sense? I didn't look it up, but it was just in a moment, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Right? It's like you suck what? What am I sucking? We never think of it like that. But
Yeah,
it's
that's
just,
an interesting
you're sucking,
expression, huh?
you're sucking energy out of their thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you suck. Like you're bringing me down. You're taking the energy out.
Exactly.
Which is interesting because people hold themselves in these patterns where it's like you need this constant sort of feed of a specific type of energy, which is based on sounds and images and music and all these things. And so you can literally affect that by talking about something different, just by speaking. Like I just had someone texting me earlier and they said they had a parent who was saying, you know, the only thing they're concerned about putting their kid, they're homeschooling their kid, but they're considering that they're not getting enough social interaction. So they're thinking about putting them in school for that reason. And I said, that's stupid. And the person was like, okay, but why do you think it's stupid? But before that, they were like, well, if I just say that person's gonna like not listen to me then. And they're not gonna do all the other things I'm suggesting, right? And I said, how do you know that? Like, how do you know that? Maybe you're just afraid that that's what's gonna happen. Maybe you just don't want to say it. And so you notice how we project the thing we don't want to happen? Like we're assuming that is what is going to happen. What does that imply? Where is that coming from?
Your resonance.
Right?
Years
Exactly.
and years of memories of things going.
It's coming from you.
Yeah.
So like when you think about, okay, if I do this, this person's going to do that. How do you know that's what's going to happen? You don't. You just know it from the perspective of that's what you are imagining is going to happen. That's not, you don't know that's what's going to happen. And then if you consider that for a moment, well, it doesn't have to happen that way, but maybe if I'm accepting that it's going to happen, well, then I'm going to say it in a certain way. That's going to end up, that's what it's manifesting. Instead of, well, maybe if I didn't see it happening that way, I would be presenting myself in a different way, but that's still in accord with what I see as best. And then the outcome would be different. It's like you can go into something and just imagine that it's going to go bad, or you can go into it knowing this is the outcome that is acceptable. So regardless of what the immediate feedback is, it doesn't matter because I'm going to keep coming at it. Versus, well, this is how I'm imagining it's going to go. It's going to go bad. So what that means is the person's going to have an idea. I'm going to say something. They're going to reject me. It's over. I don't want to experience that.
It's a great point. Yeah.
It's like, but if your starting point is that's not what's going to happen, like maybe that'll happen the first time you say something. I'm not denying that that is a possible like event.
Mhm.
But within me, I'm like, no, eventually, because I'm eventually the person's either going to get it or not. Like it doesn't matter, but eventually they'll get it. They could. And I'm not changing what I'm saying. So I'm just going to keep going until, and of course, if the person's like, don't talk to me anymore, I would respect that. You see what I mean? Meaning I'm not trying to force it.
Yeah.
But that's different than they disagreed with me. They didn't like what I said. They're not going to talk to me anymore. Why couldn't you? It's like, it's assuming that other people can't change.
Mhm.
Yes.
Like think about it. If you're in sales, what do you have to know?
That other people can
Their
change.
opinions.
That they
Yeah.
can change.
Yeah.
And I remember one time Avery said this thing to me. I forget what the context was, but I said to him, well, it was like the person, maybe it was about TechnoTutor or whatever it was, but they had made a decision and they changed their mind. And I was like, well, they changed their mind. What can you do? And Avery said, well, if they change their mind once, they can change it again.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit. So the fact that they changed their mind means they're really unstable. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, that's actually really cool. So it's like if a person's thinking one thing and you say something and then they are suddenly not liking what you're saying, you can get it back. It's okay. But this comes down to the point of if you aren't changing what's vibrating in here and how it's doing that because you don't have the vocabulary, because how do you get someone to change their mind? Like you say something, right? And then they react to you.
Yeah.
And now they don't like what you're saying. How do you get them to change now? Just by saying the same thing again?
No.
Exactly the same way?
No, change how you're saying it. Maybe
Yeah.
change
How you're
your
saying it?
voice. Maybe you can explain it in a different way. Make it more relatable. Make it more
Exactly.
likable. Make it more
Right.
interesting. Like
Can you see how if you're limited in your vocabulary and your ability to express yourself in a different way, because even expressing yourself in a certain way is a vocabulary.
yeah.
Like if I'm like, hey guys, how's it going? Like that. Or I'm like, yo, what's
Oh,
up?
shit, dude.
Hey, what's
what
up?
podcast
Or
is
something
this
like
one?
that. The difference in how you're acting is a different vocabulary. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So if your vocabulary is limited, what happens?
Your
All you
expression.
can do is this one personality, this one expression. You're only fit to just be paid to do something repetitively because you're not creative. You can't be flexible. And that's the one thing an entrepreneur would need, isn't it?
Yeah.
They would
Yeah.
need that flexibility of their expression and also the ability to take in information from lots of different.
Okay.
points.
Okay. Here's a checkpoint for everybody who was just listening to this last 10 minutes, and you were thinking of somebody else. Now go back 10 minutes, or everyone Cameron started talking about it. Now assume that you're the person. Assume that you're the person who has such a limited expression, who's so afraid of trying to test their words in public that you just don't do it, because you are that person.
Put a comment. I know a person like that. If you know a person like that.
Yeah.
I wanted to.
Even-
Oh, go
oh,
ahead, Mitch. Go ahead.
I was just gonna on the point. Even for people who have been using TechnoTutor for a while, it's like you got to stay teachable with it, because you'll start to open up and expand. But then I find this fascinating thing with myself and with others is that you almost forget like what got you to the party, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like you forget how
Oh yeah, Kevin talks about that in Yours Is Your Command too.
and
And
you
stop
forget
doing the things that got them there.
Yeah. And so it's like these people, they're like, oh yeah, I got this new work opportunity and this is awesome. And I have a new relationship and like I'm moving. It's great. And then they're like, yeah. And they just like stop using the tools. But in reality, then they're just accumulating a ton of shit and then not actually thoroughly working through the point. So I just wanted to highlight that too, because
That's great. I had to
and
go through that.
and also to make it like very personal, at first when they were talking, we were just talking about like pretty much a dynamic expression. I was like, oh yeah, I have such a dynamic expression. I can do whatever I want with my voice and how I do things, and it's great, and I can relay information. And then I realized you know, and I was like talking myself up, hyping myself up. I was like, oh, I'm excited about this. And then I was like, actually, you have a lot of ways to go, and you need to work on a lot of stuff that's holding you back from being able to do stuff. Specifically, when you mentioned the part of like, then why don't you go out in public and go say this thing, right? Because I can see that within myself. I limit my expression due to fear sometimes. Like I'm scared like somebody's potentially going to react in a certain way. And like sometimes there is a time and a place to be aware of the situation. Say you're downtown walking, and for me, especially as a woman, like say I'm alone downtown walking on street level, it's like, yeah, you should probably limit your expression a little bit when there's a group of like 20 men, you know, that are around the corner or something, you know, just like be aware of your surroundings. But that's like also being flexible in your expression and knowing when it's time to be boisterous and go meet new people and say, hello, how are you? And another time to be like, hey, let me just get to where I need to go. That's the expression I need to take on.
That's a cool point, because people might react and be like, oh, you're saying women should limit themselves because there's men. Like somehow that means women are inferior. But in the context of that scenario, that's a consequence of living in a city, right? In an urban environment where there's lots of people with low vocabulary, who are competitive. They, you know, there's a whole, in terms of education and so forth, there's a whole lot that goes into that, where it's what you're suggesting is be aware of the system that you're in. Don't, it's like you can say like, well, I should be able to wear a string bikini and run around and like, you know, let it all hang out in like the middle of, you know, a park full of men playing soccer or something, and they shouldn't even look. And it's like, what? That's not reality. Could it change? Yeah, but not by doing that.
Yeah, right.
And also the interesting thing is there's so much programming going on right now about racism specifically, sexism as well, but specifically racism. But it's like this point of all the people who are in the theory of cultural or critical theory and all that stuff, the people who are on the oppressor side, they need to change their ways. And it's they're the ones that are the issue. It's nobody else. It's just the oppressor.
Well, you can divide the world into two types of people. What are they? The oppressed, the oppressors. That's what they're teaching. That's what that podcast that you sounded with Tim Pool, Jody Shaw or something like that.
Yeah, and then it just goes into blame instead of responsibility.
It's crazy. It's really crazy. Well, basically, the oppressed have to wait for the oppressors to change. People of color, me and Drake, we don't have any power. We just have to wait for our white counterparts to change their behavior and stuff like that. It's crazy.
Oh no.
What it implies, though.
I've been told I have white privilege.
So. Oh, true. Yeah, you got white privilege.
I do.
I have not been told that yet. So I
gotta
wait for society.
Here's what it is.
Your expression.
Here's the reality of it. The end goal of that is everybody's fucked.
Yeah.
In other words, what are they actually saying? I want you to think about it for a second. The oppressors are the problem. Until they change, the oppressed, they're fucked, right? But what are they telling the oppressors to do?
I think they're telling them to change.
Hold on.
Or admit they're oppressors and talk about their
What they're actually saying is stop oppressing, right? Admit it, confess it, stop it.
And then
what they're really saying is everybody just needs to become oppressed. If you were at the top of a fucking pyramid, wouldn't you just tell everybody to below you, except that you're oppressed? Yeah. Just be oppressed. Do you see? That's what all of this you're seeing. Who is funding all of this? How is it in every fucking institution? This is like a coordinated, what's the word? Like marketing campaign.
Yeah.
Like information warfare on the masses of the world to remove any level. They're basically telling people, if you're middle class, you're an oppressor. So what do you need to do? Join the lower classes.
At lower class, you just have to wait till all the middle class people join the lower class, and
But
then
is Bill Gates gonna do that?
Mm-mm.
Fuck
dude.
no.
Is Jeff Bezos gonna do that? Is Mark Zuckerberg gonna do that?
No, they're gonna capitalize on it by putting Black Lives Matter on their websites and make it look
Yeah.
like a good guy.
And if anybody starts finding out anything they're doing and talking about it, what are they gonna do?
shut them
Shut 'em
down,
up.
baby.
Shut them down, turn off your social media. And so it's funny because all the people that are on the side of the oppressed, who are like pro all of these points, they're just fueling the fire of everybody else. Notice, who is the people that are actually doing it? Is it the elite that are doing it to us?
No.
We're doing it
It's
to
the
ourselves.
average person doing it to the other person.
Yeah.
It's like I was talking to someone earlier, and they were saying how they went to the store. This was in Canada. They went to the store and they weren't wearing a mask, and the woman in front of them said, "Why aren't you wearing a mask?" And he was like, "I don't wear a mask." And she was like, "Well, you have to wear a mask or you can't shop here," even though she wasn't even working there.
What?
And this whole thing, right? But point is, at the end of it, he was like, "Can you see how everybody's just? It's the person themselves. It's us doing it to each other. It's not the elite doing it to us. They just put up a sign. They don't even put up the sign. Did y'all notice in the beginning of the pandemic, right? The very, very beginning, you go to the grocery store, and there was all these loudspeaker announcements going, due to coronavirus, we have
Yes.
implemented social distancing. And you're like, where did they all share the fucking, how did they get that recording so fast? It was like, but it was branded with the grocery store I was in. They were like, Sprouts asked you to social distance. And I'm like, but you go to the next store, it's the same idea, different branding.
Yeah.
Like, how
The
did they,
Airport
records, yeah.
too.
they just came up with it themselves?
Gosh.
Yeah.
No.
Point. It's a really great point, and it's like because Jody Shaw or Show on that Tim Pool's podcast. It was a really good story.
Is that the
because-
librarian one?
Yes,
She was
the one that you
really cool.
shared. Yeah,
That was
so
cool.
she reminds me of Brett Weinstein a lot because she's like really level-headed, like really
Yeah.
objective and stuff. And she was taking all the practical remediations of like, okay, so you're not allowed to talk about race at a job interview, so why should it be a condition of my employment that I speak? Because she's saying it's not just they're limiting your speech. It's not just that. So freedom of speech, they're compelling your speech. They're saying you have to talk about this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you don't, then white fragility or whatever the case.
Yeah, that was interesting when she said she said she was uncomfortable talking about it because she didn't want to play the game.
At work, yeah, exactly.
Right. And they said no. And then they said she said that's fine. You could just tell them that when you go to the seminar or whatever it was. And then the woman or the person running it said, yeah, see, so if you notice, if there's white people who say they're uncomfortable, they're not actually. It's just a
Like
oppressive
don't feel
strategy.
bad. Yeah, don't feel bad for them.
Don't actually feel bad because they're doing that on purpose so they can continue. I'm paraphrasing, but they can basically continue being oppressive and not do anything about
What?
it.
And,
Yeah,
and
that's what they said.
Imagine like you're actually deeply uncomfortable with the situation. You're the only person in a group of like 20 people. You're like, yeah, I'm not comfortable talking about my race at work. And then everybody goes around and you're the only person. And this is like a middle-aged woman, right? Not particularly feisty or aggressive, just a very mild-mannered woman. And then somebody says that, and you're like, a person who says what that person over there just said, they're actually fucking evil, and you shouldn't feel bad for them. Imagine how that would make you feel. And it's all about it being inclusive, right? And making sure you have a good
Right. Inclusivity, diversity. And then imagine, okay, let's say you have a white person, a black person, a white person, a black person. Okay. They go to the first white person, right? And they say, can you talk about how you feel race plays a part of your life? And they're like, well, yes, as a white person, I understand that I have privilege, and no matter what the other black people in here, they can never achieve as much as me just because of the structure of the society and the fact that I have white skin and so forth. It gives me this advantage. And I understand that, and I am an oppressor, and I feel guilty about it, but it's a nature of the world that we're in, and there's not much I can do about it other than express it and then stand up and talk about how and be actively anti-racist. And they're like, okay, cool. Then they go to the black person. Tell me about your experience of race. And they're like, well, as a black person, I feel that, no matter what I do, I can never have what person who's not black or who's white has. I never feel respected. I feel like because of the color of my skin, I'm always, looked down upon, and other people can't, white people especially can't relate to that. They'll never know what it's like to be judged by the color of their skin. It's just, they're privileged, they're fortunate. And at the end of the day, they're kind of evil because they don't even want to admit it. And they're like, okay, cool. Thank you for sharing that. And then they go to the white person, the next white person say, okay, what about your race? Tell us about your experience of race, right? and the white person says, you know, I honestly, I have lots of friends who are in many different races. When I look at people, I generally don't look at necessarily their race. I look at more like kind of how they dress or the way they're speaking or maybe what they're doing. And if I feel like that person's doing something that doesn't seem right to me, like I might not want to be around them, or maybe they don't have the same interests as me. I'm not interested in them. But if they're like me in the sense that they have similar interests, we talk about the same kind of things, maybe our kids go to the same schools, it doesn't matter to me what color their skin is. I enjoy being around people, right? So, and for example, I had a girlfriend in college who was Black, and it was not a problem. Like I just never even thought about it really, right? And they're like,
Racist.
that is the most disgusting, vile, evil display of, not only are you so evil you don't recognize it, you're pretending like you're being oppressed just so other people won't talk about how oppressed they are. It's shameful. And the person's like, okay. And then you go to the next person, go to the Black person, right? And they're like, how does race play a role in your life? And the Black person's like, well, you know, honestly, growing up Black, my parents, they stuck together. So, you know, I see things in the media about, you know, lots of Black homes, they don't have fathers and all that stuff. But I didn't really grow up like that. Like we were pretty middle class. My dad was an engineer at IBM, and my mom, you know, she mostly stayed at home, but she had a master's degree, you know, and we had a pretty good life. You know, we went to church on Sundays, and you know, we just, my parents were always around, and they supported us to go to college, and I got a good job, and I make pretty good income, and I always just felt like, you know, if I worked really hard, I could advance, and I never felt like people were treating me, at least in the places I've been, any differently. You know, I always felt pretty welcomed, and I lived in mostly white communities, to be honest. Like, and I didn't really ever feel like it was my race was an issue. I mean, you'll have every once in a while somebody saying something negative, but you could tell it's just because there's some self-esteem issues on their part. And I've seen people who are like me, Black, do it to other people, white people, even other Black people, and even Chinese people. And you see it's like a kind of unfortunately, a human nature thing at the moment, not so much a white Black kind of thing, right? But ultimately, I feel like it's like Martin Luther King Jr. said, we should judge people based on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. That's what I teach my children, and they don't seem to experience any of that stuff. You know, of course, they're getting bombarded with it at school, and everyone trying to tell them they're oppressed, but they don't feel that way. I mean, they have everything they need, right? And they look at that person, they're like, oh, you poor thing. Don't you know your children will never, ever, ever, ever be equal to a white person? Don't you know that? Don't you know that they're inferior to white people? And they're like, okay, you two, I want you to go over here, all right? Both of you, whether you realize it or not, are Nazis.
The two white people?
We don't talk, yeah, the white people and the Black person who didn't agree with everything, right?
Oh, the second two people.
Yeah, you're Nazis, both of you, Black and white. You're both racists. You need to be
remediated. You need to.
First of all, here's the problem with Nazis. Okay, let me tell you the problem with Nazis. Okay,
yeah.
The problem with Nazis is they believe, get this, that white people were superior to all the other races. First of all,
this shit sounds familiar.
And they're like, this is clearly false. Okay, clearly all cultures are equal. All right, all races, all identities are equal. Second of all, what these people did is they took people who didn't agree with them or who weren't the right race or the right religion or whatever, wrong belief systems, they rounded them up and they put them into places where they had to confess their sins, and they tortured them, and they took away all of their income, their networks, everything, right? So we have to eradicate all of that from our existence. And the way we need to, from our society, the way we need to do that is we need to get all the people who don't agree with us, we need to round them up, we need to make sure the credit card companies cancel their credit cards.
Banks
and we need to
deny
make
them.
sure that the banks they won't give them any.
Get them fired. Get them blacklisted.
Get them
whatever.
fired, yeah.
Get them fired, right? And, you know, if I could have my way, you know, well, we'd send them all to camps and let them take showers, if you know what I mean. Haha, right? No, I'm just kidding. I would never do that. But I'm just saying, if AOC said it was okay, it'd be okay, right? And literally, that's how they think. That is how they think. And here's the problem with it.
It's the same thing.
Well,
It's
obviously.
the same.
Here's the problem with it. Even if they believe what they believe, do they have any idea whatsoever how to change internally?
No.
Hell no.
So the only way they can resolve this conflict in their mind, because they see that there is disparity in this world, right? They see that Black children are more likely in America to be in poverty or to be, to be illiterate or whatever the case is. They see things like that. Of course, they look at all the evidence that shows any way out. Like they look at Asian people and they don't consider, well, how come they are all literate and they can all do math and everything? And if you say that, you're racist. And it's like,
Yeah, dude. Don't bring the anti-Asian hate up in here.
don't bring the anti-Asian hate, right? But it's like, they if you don't believe the human being can change, then you think the only solution is to just, it's interesting because the whole critical theory is based on this idea that race and gender and all these things are performative.
Formative?
Performative meaning it's not who you are, it's kind of like how you do things. Right? So it's like, even though I might have a penis, I can be a woman because being a woman is performative. It's not
It's a social
based on your
construct.
biology. It's a construct. It's something I do. It's not my physical biology or anything, right? But it's funny because they're just literally the biggest fucking drama queens. You know what I mean? Like they're performing this like, oh, everyone is racist and we must all repent of our sins and everything. You know, but at the end of the day, my point is that they're not.
What baffles me
They
is
don't have. Yeah.
how are feminists not at war with, for example, transgenderism?
They are
Because the whole
actually.
okay, because you don't really see that, but in my head, when I'm thinking about it,
Can you talk about that? What are you saying?
when I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, so the whole point of feminism is breaking down the fact that there's social constructs that women express themselves this way and men express themselves this way. And feminism is like, that's not true. We can all do whatever each other do, right? I can do what a man does, right? Then you have transgenderism or critical theory at the very youth level where, a child starts playing with dolls and all of a sudden that boy child, hey, you're playing with female dolls, you might be a girl. Or a girl starts skateboarding and it's like, oh, you might be a boy. It's like, why can't a girl skateboard? Why can't a boy wear pink? So what's happening is in terms of what's being interwoven into the social construct part is like, depending on you as a male or female, if you as a male play the female role, then you should transition into being a girl. And if you are a girl and you are, roughhousing and you like your hair is short, you must be a man, you must be a boy, so you should transition that way. Where the point of feminism is like, a woman can express themselves, however, they're still a woman. Right. So I'm just like looking at those 2 points. I was like, why aren't they?
So there is a conflict right now. You could look up the word TERF, TERF, right? And there is a conflict right now. For example, let's say we go that route and we say, okay, being a woman is not about your biology. It's about how you feel and how you express yourself, right? So the women's locker room at the gym where the women like to take off their clothes and shower and do all the things that they do, right? If a man wants to go in there with a full-on dick and balls, and like muscles like The Rock, but he's a woman, he identifies that way, he should be able to go in there. And he should be able to just be in there and be normal, however. But what if a woman is like, okay, there's certain things that as women, biologically, we want to be able to do with each other in terms of discuss things or feel like we're comfortable expressing certain things or whatever. And we don't want a physical male there, right? And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with women having their own space where they can feel comfortable about whatever they need to do, right? So I'm not saying every trans person thinks this way, but this the general push that you see in social media at the very least is that's transphobic. Because anybody who expresses or identifies, if you don't allow them in there, you're doing harm to them. So it'd be like, for example, imagine this scenario. You can imagine this. Let's say my daughter, right, who's a biological female, right? Whew, I mean, you Canadians are sweating
Damn.
right now.
Yeah, dude, you just got us taken out in
You're
Canada.
like, I'm not saying anything.
I'm not
um,
associated with this message. Seneca
It's like,
can grow up and choose who she wants to be at age 4.
yeah, at age 4. So, anyways, if she had a physical issue as a female, okay, I would want to take her to a female doctor.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Well,
Now
depends who
imagine
you
I
ask,
get
but
there. To me, it makes sense. Right? Like, I don't care how much a male has studied a female. They're not a female. They're not a woman. Do you understand? And I do understand the point that's being made about gender being performative. Like, a man can wear a dress. Yes, I know that. But that doesn't make him a woman.
Mhm.
Any more than if a woman changes her physical sex, that makes her a man. Still just a woman acting like a man.
Oh, hold on. So you're talking about the hormone.
Why can't that just be the way it
therapy
is?
But you're talking about
Huh?
any more than if a woman underwent hormone therapy or cut off her tits, it still doesn't make her a man. That's what you're mentioning.
It's like if you cut off your arm, you're still a human, right? You're still
Shit, dude.
you're still a
Gotta
man.
cancel my plans for tomorrow.
Yeah, so
I'm trying to be a
Asif,
3-year.
if you
But
went
I
and
actually
got-
don't.
if you went and
Yeah.
got boob implants, cut your dick off, turned it into a vagina, literally had ovaries put into your body, like the whole 9, put all that in, your body would be so traumatized and would not adjust. It just simply
Why would you do that to your body?
So I still wouldn't be a woman.
That's like
That's-
literally like, my body is my slave and I even treat it the way I want. Because if I want to feel like a woman, then I will do whatever I want to it.
So wait, you guys
like,
recommend against that?
Deal with the psychological part, huh?
You guys recommend against that?
You're
'Cause I'll-
against this?
I'll have to cancel my
But hear me
Tuesday
out.
plans
Hear me
too.
out.
Fuck.
Hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out.
Unsubscribe,
care.
unlike, uncomment.
Hear me out. I really don't care if a man wants to wear a dress. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. So the problem is, if it was just a person's individual choice, that's one thing. But when you see something on the cover of National Geographic,
Got him.
right? And that's on the newsstands at the grocery store, let's say, where your
Got him
kids are.
times 2.
You see what I mean? Is that, whose choice is that?
Right.
People say, well, you could just shop somewhere else. But if I did, wouldn't you say I was transphobic?
Oh.
Right?
Wow.
In
Yeah.
other words, they're saying because you don't accept it, you are bad. So who's actually trying to force someone else to do something? And so what's interesting is if like in the case of that woman, right? Why is it that someone would argue that a man who has become a female in terms of some kind of transition thing that he believes he's become a woman, why is it that he should be allowed into the women's bathrooms, the women's facilities, etc.? Because if you don't, you're harming them. I mean, you're not physically harming them, but you're making them feel bad. You're making them feel like you're not accepted. But they wouldn't have any problem doing that to somebody who they've deemed as an oppressor.
So for example, imagine if you
So-
made that same argument for a man who's transitioned to becoming a woman, into a woman, and then they go into the bathroom and you say, hey, you can't go into that bathroom because you're harming the biological women. That's an unacceptable explanation.
Yeah.
If they feel uncomfortable, because their discomfort is because they're in a privileged class and they're trying to hold on to power. Whereas
Right.
this person's
The top of the
discomfort
power
is coming
structure.
from they're an oppressed class.
Right.
So discomfort is discomfort.
Apparently not.
What does it matter where the source of it is? It's like if Bill Gates stubs his toe, it's the same as if I stub my toe or if you stub your toe. If his child were to get ill and die, how would that be any different than my child getting ill and die? And is his $1 billion really going to probably save that kid? Probably not. I mean, look at the other things he spent billions of dollars on,
That don't work out.
like U.S. education, for example.
Oh.
But you see what I mean? So It is fascinating because, again, to bring it all back, it's like the point about the individual being able to change is not part of the equation. And yet it's assumed that if you're in the oppressor class, rather, you should be able to change. But I don't think they actually assume you can change. I think it's like, you can't change.
There's no solution.
So we just have
That's
to,
the funny part.
It's literally a way of just taking the people that are perceived as being a threat to challenging the system. If the government wanted to pass sweeping gun control laws, what's the one set of people they really need to convince?
The people with guns.
Yeah, the white people,
Why the white people?
because they're the majority population in the United States,
Word.
and they're the people that they want to take them from.
Right. It's like they're the
Right.
ones. Yeah.
So they have to now create an environment where you feel ashamed of, where you feel like you don't have a right to own anything.
Have you guys ever heard that description of a cult? Like one of the characteristics of like the scary cults is like they use shame. They
Yeah.
use shame as a way to get you to do things, and they coerce you into doing things. It's like, isn't that the only mechanism that's being used? Fear and shame, right? We're gonna cut you out of
and it's
our group.
interesting
You don't comply.
because, like,
Fun.
if I were to use shame with somebody, I would be pointing out something they're doing that's not best and that they're accepting as a weakness. Versus the way shame is used in our world,
Where the shame is like something that they realize within themselves, like, damn, I have this one gift of a life and I'm wasting it fucking
Yeah,
watching TV all day. or whatever.
that's a shame. That's a real shame.
Yeah.
So it's not that
real
shame itself
shame,
is
huh?
bad, right? It's not that shame is bad. It's appropriate when it makes sense. But then shaming somebody is when you're impulsing them with, we're all like this, you're not like that, you're bad, you're going to get cut off, you don't get any support. That's the abuse of shame.
Mhm.
And that's what I see happening. And again, there is no solution in terms of whether you're anti-racist or not anti-racist. None of that stuff matters because that's not the game that's being played. It's not about
Like,
actually a solution.
It's so funny because there's not even a clear, distinct carrot being dangled in front of for anybody to be that way, other than you just won't get ostracized by society. It's not like you're gonna get something. You're just not gonna get the smackdown. Isn't that interesting?
Exactly.
Like, why are people?
There is
why
no, like,
everybody
if
doing
everyone
it?
could do this, here's what we're going to implement that's going to be best for everybody.
Exactly.
Which is
Yeah.
what we're saying is, like, we want to be able to, as a collective, implement systems that make sure
You
everybody
see-
has what they need. But to do that, everyone has to be okay with everyone having what they need.
And so that's how, like, we're gonna be the ones to vote for. Guys, this is great because once we make a political party, it's like this is what we have to use. We're gonna be the ones who vote for attaching your credit score to your social responsibility, because we're gonna be the ones, not us five, but I mean us as the collective are gonna be the ones who are like, yeah, like there should be a way. There should be a carrot that's right in front that you should get rewarded if you do the right thing, and you should get punished if you do the wrong thing. Because right now we can't really tell, like, these white people don't have enough consequences to stop being racist. So we
Yeah,
need to
good
create
point.
something, right? We're going to enforce that. We're going to be the ones to enforce it. So it's really, really fascinating that existentially, I know I'm yelling right now. Is this too loud?
No.
I was like,
No, it's great.
Exist-
Say it again, just for good
Just
measure.
say
existentially.
yes. Preach it, please. Give it to me.
I'll leave that to. Stop laughing, Karen. But Drake's a good.
Leave a comment if you got excited.
That's the second time this podcast is turning into something else. That's when Cameron was like, "Hey."
I listen for those points.
So existentially speaking, imagine this, right? Existentially speaking,
Wait, one more time.
like like existence. I'm talking about it from a very existential point of view. If you haven't figured it out yet, we created coronavirus from the perspective of we as nature. Cameron made a great point. If you had If you had a family.
Comment if you agree. I made a great point.
Comment if you also think that Cameron does not make a great point.
Yeah.
Don't comment if
Such a
you think
shit.
that.
No, don't comment if you're on the fence. But comment if you're on the fence. That's good.
Comment
If you're
if
on
you
your
want
fence.
us to keep telling you to comment.
Comment.
Comment if you want us to stop talking about comment.
Comment if you're somewhere in between and you're not sure, and tell us what you're thinking on each side, and then try to get other people to comment on your comment, and to really get a debate going.
Just
Wait,
comment,
wait,
Asif,
comment
Asif.
your thoughts all day, every day.
Hang on.
Comment the most controversial thing you can comment.
Yeah, we'll do that. And then Asif, did you just say that we created coronavirus?
Yeah,
I wanna
yeah,
really-
help it.
I want to hear. I want to hear what you were.
So like, imagine somebody like if you had a family, right, and there was a mass murder. It was on TV. It's like, we're looking for this person. They might be in your neighborhood. They killed like 18 people. They're coming for you next, and they burst into your house. What are you gonna do?
Kill them.
A mass
Kill
murder?
the motherfucker, right? So
Ask their pronouns. Oh, comment if you thought it was ask their pronouns.
I don't give
Before
a-
I kill you, I need to know your pronouns.
kill him. I mean her. I mean Zer. I mean.
He's like on 911. He's like, there's a killer here. Can you describe him? Sir, how do you identify? He says he's a female.
But he
They're
looks
they're
like a
like, we're
male.
sending a female social worker. Stand by.
We defunded the police, so we don't know who to send. A social worker. Is he armed? We're still only going to send a social worker.
Is he armed? That's ableist.
Disarm him. For those of you like, look up ableist. Look up ableist for sure. That's hilarious. That was a good one, Cameron. Comment if you got that.
No,
one.
no, even better, dude. The guy starts murdering you, and he calls 911, and he's like, "I'm a black person. I'm murdering this white guy, and he's oppressing me." I'm calling to come to report a hate crime.
Oh man.
This guy's telling me to stop. No, this man is womansplaining to me to stop murdering him or mansplaining me.
I'm a man who identifies as
Comment if I took it too far. Okay.
Too far.
Comment.
I'm gonna comment.
exactly. Comment if you think Cameron should have taken it further.
If I should have just stopped. Okay.
So the point is, we as nature are trying to defend us against ourselves. It's in the same way that when somebody's trying to like quit their porn addiction, they'll put up like a site blocker. But imagine,
Ooh, that's a
Well,
spicy take.
dude, I know, I fucking just came up with that on the spot, dude. But hold on.
I mean,
imagine-
I'm totally in agreement. I'm just saying it's such a spicy take because you don't see anybody saying that. Like even Greta Thunberg is like, you know, oh yes, the humans are killing the planet with climate change. Like the human is so bad. I hate the humans. I hate you humans. But nobody's like, guys, why are we so upset about coronavirus? It's literally just the earth trying to remove us because we're so fucking evil. Like, why isn't anybody saying that?
But like, imagine you like forgot that you put up a firewall, like site blocker to keep you away from watching porn. What are you thinking, Cameron?
I was just thinking if somebody's like, why aren't you wearing a mask? It's like, because I'm doing what's best for all. So I'm not afraid of the coronavirus. You're the only one that has to be worried.
Oh, fucking spells, dude.
I'm on the same side. That doesn't mean I'm trying to give people coronavirus because that's not how it works.
I'm
No,
team
you're like-
COVID.
You're too
Not how it
COVID.
works.
Team COVID. Team COVID.
Team COVID, yeah. It's like, he's like, dude, like, why aren't you wearing a mask? She's like, I'm the one who sent coronavirus, bitch. Mitch, come on, unmute. I want to hear that laughter, baby.
I just have some Jess is just handling something
Listen.
downstairs.
Okay, go.
Just as like making smoothies in the background.
Like also taking care of Teddy and like, so here's the point. I don't even remember what the fuck we were talking about, but we're gonna vote in the enslavement of mankind. We're gonna be the ones to vote it in. We don't do, this is actually the point I was making. This guy from the KGB, when he's talking about taking over society, basically it's a 15 to 20 year process. You can't do something against the will of the people. So you have to sell the people on why it would be best to wear fucking 2-3 masks based on the science. Cameron.
And two colors, so we know that it's different masks.
Really?
Surgical mask with the customs
Exactly. Yeah,
Styli-
you get your
stylistic
fabric
mask.
one on the outside, yeah, and then
And I still wear
stretch
my
it
Gucci
underneath.
one.
The Gucci has to be under the N95. That's crazy. That's
Was
no, that's really interesting because oh man. Anyways, so the point is it's like it has to follow this logic that even though it's based off totally incorrect premises, people have to be stupid enough to believe it. So that's why education is such a key role in this. But here's the point. We are going to be the ones to usher in all of these laws in the same way that, you know, in Canada, I'm talking
And you're
to
saying we, you just mean everyone generally, collectively.
society, like humanity, yeah. Like I
I just want to make sure everybody was clear on that.
like
Not
me
trying
and
to say like a
Cameron
royal
and
we.
Drake and Mitch are not the ones who are imposing these laws on you. No. So you know, I've been talking to a couple
Well,
of
not
people.
only will that happen, but it'll be the average person out there in society enforcing it.
That's what, yeah, exactly.
You're
That's
not going to
the
have
biggest
police everywhere.
Yeah, that's the point he's making.
Yeah.
right?
Oh, okay.
That's
Yeah.
the biggest point. That's the biggest point. It's like the funny part is right now, you know, this whole thing about the U.S. Canadian border being shut down, all this stuff. I was talking to a friend who shall remain nameless because everybody knows I like to dox people. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
this
like, what?
specific
Now,
one,
now
You
you're
don't need
not
their
naming?
social
for this
security
one,
number.
for this one, it's dangereux. It's dangereux, my friends. That's French for dangerous, by the way.
Oh,
Uh,
they said Don Sugar. I'm like, okay.
Who's
See?
Don Sugar?
See, you guys do not know French. You gotta put that in your vocabulary. So the point. Canadian friend, dude, US girlfriend, driving through the borders, up, down, no problem. They get the spiel, oh, if you do this, you're gonna get in trouble, you're gonna get fined, but they didn't give a fuck, no repercussions. So I had somebody who was going through
You mean like
Okay.
from the officials themselves?
from the
no problems.
officials, they say, hey, by the way, as you cross the border, like there's this and this and this, and if you don't comply, 5K fine, up to 5K fine, up to 10K fines could be the case for you.
Could
Okay, got it.
result.
Exactly, right? On the phone, right? So you get this phone call from, I don't know, like Health Canada, right? They're calling you and you have to push 11111. No, I don't have any symptoms. No, I don't have any symptoms. And somebody hit 2 by accident. Yes, I have this. Oh, yes, I left my house. It's like, oh fuck, like keypad, I can't go back. Fuck.
Whoops up.
There's no remediation for a finger slip up. It reminds me of that movie Brazil, right? Of they got the guy's name wrong, and then she had to like her husband gets taken away, and then she's basically standing in line. She's like, I need to get my husband back. Like, wait, did you get this form filled out? She's like, no. Like, then they go to the other line. They're like, oh, you need to go back to this. It's like a bunch of bureaucratic bullshit because it's so automated. So they pushed that button by accident. Like, fuck, right? And all it was at the end was, we noticed that you're not complying with regulations. Please, like we highly suggest that you comply with the regulations because there may be fines of up to $5,000 to $10,000 and
That was it.
Wow.
that was it.
Nice.
So that being said, everybody else is going along like it's a real thing.
The
It's
real
just,
fucking problem is if everybody knows you came back from a trip on Facebook and
You'll
you
get
post that
shamed.
you're outside or you're in a house with 10, 15 people,
Imagine what that does psychologically.
they
to people,
get
man.
the text message from their friends and family being like, I noticed in that picture that you were with 11 people. What is going on? Is everything okay?
That means they actually were counting.
Dude, so here's this.
Like-
Watch this. Wait, hold on. Hear me out. There was,
Carry them.
we held a clubhouse when the limit was 10 people. We only had 10 people. We
Yeah.
complied.
Of course.
We
You don't
complied.
want to get ratted out by the fucking Gestapo,
but here,
by the Nazi youth next door.
there were still other people's parents and stuff like that who commented like, hey, that was a quite large gathering. Like, you know, the regulation is like this many people. It was like, did you count the fucking
Can
number
you
of people?
fucking count?
Literally, that's how bad it is. It's like overriding their ability to count.
Wow, that's so fucking crazy. That's so fucking crazy. Like, I have a friend. So I went to a wedding yesterday. It was raucous. It was awesome. There
You
was
guys wilding out.
There was
Florida.
too many people, way too many. It was amazing. Loved it. Congratulations. But one of our friends came
Muscle.
from Spain, and we got to talking, and she was saying how like she came straight from Spain to here in Florida, right? And I was like, oh, how's it going? And she's like, yo, it's fucking crazy here. She's like, it's crazy. Do you know what it's like in Spain? Like they literally have cops circling the block around the parks to make sure that your mask doesn't slip when you're walking.
Oh.
Yeah. She's like, it's really like Nazism over there. Like over here, she said she got here and she was like, oh, so-and-so, we're going to a concert. And she's like, concerts? You guys have those here? Like, what the fuck? Like, and I'm like, oh, wow. Like I get upset when, you know, I go into a restaurant and they're like, sure. And I'm like, no. I'm not doing that. I'm not putting on that mask, right? He's like, no, this is crazy. Like, I haven't seen her wear, you know, a mask once since she's been here. And it's been really cool because she's like, this is freedom. This is like, we have to stop all this stuff because what's going on over there is crazy. Well,
She's moving out of Spain.
Yeah.
We all welcome you with open arms, whoever you are.
But I was saying that because in other places, it really is like that. It really is like they have
That's
that.
crazy.
Like somebody is enforcing that. And then they also have to, like, they believe it, they accept it, and then they take on that enforcing for other people. And so then, you know, I'm sure like someone just sent me a message because I posted a short little video of that party. And somebody's just sent me a message like, aren't you afraid? Like they were saying it sarcastically because people who know me, they know I don't give a fuck. But like somebody said like, aren't you afraid of COVID? Nobody there was literally one person who was wearing a mask, and it was like a young person. It wasn't all the old people. There was tons of old people. They were all cool, all chilling, right? One person there, and like it was something like you could see that they were uncomfortable in general. Like they weren't like they weren't very social. They weren't, you know, it was like kind of like a more anxious type of person.
Okay.
You had gone to that wedding like 8 months ago. What would it have been like, you think?
8 months ago, like
at the start of
peak.
Yeah.
I think like it was originally scheduled for.
No, I'm just saying, like, what would it have been like if you had?
So
would most people be wearing masks?
No, I don't think so. Just because here in Florida, when it first started out, nobody was doing the mask thing. And it was just like, everyone was like.
Was there any point where they were?
Yeah, there was. There was a point.
That's all I'm saying is there's a point where people were doing it.
Yeah.
But then there's a certain point where somebody says, okay, you don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah, no, there's definitely like if you go out, so here's the other cool thing. If you go out to like a restaurant or to the mall or something like that, virtually, or if I go to the grocery store, I would say 90% of the people are wearing a mask, right?
Oh, at the grocery store?
At the grocery store, 90%, right?
Now?
Right now, still, yeah. It's me and like a few other people. Like I notice more and more, a few other people will just not fucking do it. Nobody says anything to you when you're at the grocery store, right? However, if you're going to an event that's like you and your friends, nobody does it. So it's like you put on. I was talking with another friend last night who he does. He's a producer. He DJs, that kind of stuff, right? And he's got a network of people who create music, and they've put together live events and things like that. And they've been doing it since the beginning. They had to stop for a little while in the beginning, and then they figured out a way where they could do it again, right? And he was just telling me how much the music industry has changed, obviously, but he was telling me about how big name artists will come down to Florida and throw events, right?
Oh.
However, depending on the artist, they will either show the event that they had or not show it. And the reason why they're not showing it now is because all those artists who did show their events, they got like everybody ripping them a new one online, basically saying this artist doesn't care about you, and they're losing fans because of it.
People aren't wearing masks at the
right.
In the pictures.
However, here, like if you come here, people will show up to your event. People want to be a part of it. Like the people actually want it, But online, it's like, no, you can't do that. You're a terrible person, all this, right? And so it's really changing the culture. And so if you want to have an event, there's like one DJ out here who has events that are deemed safe, and they can post videos of their stuff and everything, right? But it's really changing the culture. So like it becomes this really underground thing where, okay, now at least here with the people that I associate with, now it's like, all right, fine. You say we can't do it this way. So if you come around, we'll put on this face for you, right? But, and this is like generally speaking how people are. But in reality, if it's just like, if I don't have to listen to you, I don't give a fuck. Most people are like that here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know I interrupted you. Yes. Go ahead.
No, that was fucking brilliant, dude.
Well,
It really gives
here's
context to
what's-
the kind of social enforcement point. Go ahead, Mitch.
Here's what's so fascinating. All these people that Asif's talking about, they're like the families that are like, oh, did you know you had more than 10 people? Or these other people like, you know, attacking like the DJs and artists and whatever. It's like, I know we all post stuff on social media about like, hey, check out how advanced these, you know, 2 and 4 year olds are and how, you know, how set up they're going to be for success, or like, let's implement an equal money system and like, let's figure out how we can stop starvation in the world. And where's their comments there?
Right. Never to be seen. Ever.
Yeah.
It's a really great point.
pathetic.
Yeah.
It's a really, really great point, because they are never, ever, 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 categorically on every occasion that I've ever seen on any one of your posts, they're never willing to stand up against the things that they know are bad. Only if it's societally accepted, then they'll do it. Only if it's societally accepted. So going back to this point of
As long as you don't attack Lincoln Park, you're okay.
right, exactly. So like the point of coronavirus, right? It's like, imagine you have this thing called white blood cells.
Dude, that already sounds racist.
I'm already triggered.
Fuck, dude. Sorry. Where's my BLM background? 1 second. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, dude, you gotta equalize out.
I need a
Your
Up
points are all
my
off.
my social points.
You gotta fist
exactly.
yourself like 3 times.
Oh fuck, dude.
One more. There we go.
One more for
Wait,
good
what
measure,
is
because I'm about to say some shit. You don't know what this is, Jess? You're
No, I
fucking white
do, but-
privileged.
But
Definitely.
how did you get that back there?
Dude, it's now a default. When you buy Zoom, you get a free poster. No, I'm kidding, Jess. Chill. You too cold.
You get a free Black Lives Matter poster.
background. Yeah, they send you a picture and
Too
they walk you
much.
through how to put it as your virtual background. Okay,
I
One,
did not need
two,
to know that information.
4, 5. Okay, so I got my points up. So now I'm in the positive. So I'm going to bring it down with what I'm about to say to a net zero, like Bill Gates. So
You can do evil shit as long as you do some good shit also.
hear me out.
It's net zero. It's like
exactly.
As long as
Um,
you like give to charity, you can also do some other things.
Do you know what, guys? Do you know how the immune system works when there is foreign material in the body that could be harmful to the body?
When you say foreign, that sounds a little racist.
Fuck! Damn it! This is so difficult. It's so funny because I'm
What are
about
you writing an email?
I'm running an
You're
apology.
like, hold on, I
right
just
now.
gotta email my
Yeah,
Send
but-
an email to his
just
lawyer.
responding to my accountant here. Okay, yes, I know that about-
Just
Off of
right, I got
bankruptcy.
some hate mail from last week's episode.
Yeah, exactly. I respond to them while I'm doing it. There's this thing called, and this I don't know if this is gonna drop me some other points or if like we're past the homosexuality thing, but there's a thing called phagocyte. But it's spelt with a PH. It's I'm just kidding around, but seriously, there's a thing called phagocyte, and what it is,
I think it's phago site.
that'd be really unfortunate if it was.
Look it up. Is it?
Fuck.
It probably is, if it has to do with like bacteriophage.
No, phagocyte. It's a phagocyte.
Damn.
Oh, you bastard.
This is so good.
Okay, so here's the point. What phagocytes do, they get
It's like
released in
that?
your body.
That can't be right. That
Oh
cannot
my
be
God,
right.
Drake just came back and now he's jumping on the social thing. Like, see, this is what I'm saying. you're going to become the cancel culture if you don't stand up. It's going to take over you. Okay, so what phagocytes do is when there's material in your body that shouldn't be there, harmful bacteria, your body, your immune system releases phagocytes, and it kills the potential. Guys, look up the words. God damn it! If you're still laughing, guys.
Is anybody actually surprised about this word? Or okay, that's your answer.
It,
Y'all took biology in high school, right?
I did not learn this from high school.
Really?
I
Okay.
learned this from doing the science list and Technotutor when coronavirus came out.
Got
So if it's not different than coronavirus in essence, is my point. It took like 20 minutes to explain because I had to jump through all the social justice hoops. But the point is
that's just normal nowadays.
exactly. You have to like a 2-minute conversation times 10, always, every time. Because you have to use all the proper pronouns and figure them out and all that stuff. So like when you're meeting somebody, could you imagine that scene? I don't know if people have seen that, but in those videos that Paul Joseph Watson makes, it's like, hi, great to meet you. Here are my races, and like here are my pronouns, and here's my sexuality, and this is my name. Shake their hand. How are you? You know. But wait.
No, you don't shake hands nowadays.
True. Fuck. God damn it. I'm really bad at this.
Dude, you're basically okay with killing
I'm the
massive amounts of
oppressor.
people by saying you're into handshakes.
1 second. I'll throw out my score real quick.
Okay.
That's going to be half our
Reminds
podcast
me
eventually.
of the Batman light.
Yeah, exactly. The fist. So let me just be clear, okay? If somebody broke into your house, you would become the thing that kills that person to protect your family. That's what a phagocyte is. That's what coronavirus is. There's no difference. So nature does. That's what.
So what you're saying is coronavirus isn't the virus. Coronavirus is the Earth's immune system. And we're the virus.
Perfectly.
Say it again. No.
So
No.
it's like imagine border security. It's like we have these defense
That's like that
mechanisms.
John Lennon song. I remember that was like Imagine Border Security. That was like one of the lyrics originally, I think.
That's back in the day.
I think he was like, Imagine Border Security. Imagine no foreigners in our country.
That's
imagine,
it. That's
imagine, it. Yeah. Imagine no wealth
Call
tax.
and check in if you have.
Imagine Second Amendment rights for all.
Oh, you came back into the country.
Imagine equally effective education.
I might
He was like,
be a
imagine no
dreamer.
people. John Lennon.
I might be a
I think he
dreamer.
reincarnated as the coronavirus.
Oh, not bad. So,
Oh my gosh.
that's what we do. That's what we have the capacity to do as human beings, is we create the thing that we hold within ourselves. For example, if you hold on to a fear inside of yourself, you will create that. If you look up the word, for those of you who have Technotutor, just look up the word purpose. And you'll realize that the whole, like,
And if you don't have Technotutor, look up the word dumbass.
Oh my god.
Oh man, that's great.
Especially if you're like on, what episode is this?
40.
Like 40 or something.
If you're on 40 out of 40, you don't have it yet.
You didn't get it. You definitely can't process information.
No.
This is so funny, dude. It's taken me like an hour to get across 2 points. It's all in good jest.
Multidimensional.
What was I talking about? Oh yeah, look at the word. What word did I say to look up?
Purpose.
Purpose.
Yes. Purpose, right? It's
Yeah.
Mitch. Are you looking it up or something?
Oh, I was looking
he's,
up dumb.
he's
He's
emailing his
looking up.
accountant.
No, he's looking up dumbass.
He's emailing his accountant. Oh, he's looking up dumbass.
Mitch is like, "Fuck, did I get technically yet?" Are you looking it up now?
Here we go. Well, hey, hang on. First, dumb, slow to learn or understand, lacking intellectual acuity, lacking the power of human speech, temporarily incapable of speaking, unable to speak. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Here's purpose. Propose or intend, reach a decision or noun, an anticipated outcome that is intended or that guides your planned actions.
So consider that.
Imagine
right?
someone reading that going, "Oh shit, that's what purpose is."
No, hear me out, right?
Seriously, there's people out there that are like, "Oh."
Hear me out. Okay. It is an anticipated outcome that guides your planned actions. Right. You know how that idea of like people are like, yeah, but how do you use the law of attraction? It's like you're always using the law of attraction. It's just like whatever you're thinking about, that's what you're attracting into your life, kind of thing. So just start using it for what you want. It's like you're always fulfilling a purpose. And this comes back to the point of Cameron talking about when you're kind of anticipating that someone's going to respond to you negatively, you end up doing the actions that bring about the anticipated outcome. You are fulfilling a purpose, right? Mitchell actually shared this with me. It feels like 4 months ago. It could have been a year and a half ago, dude. At this point, with like coronavirus time, it's like everything feels compressed. But I feel like it was a year ago. And you're sharing with me a conversation that you had with Guion, and he was sharing this point with, well, I don't know if you came to the conclusion on your own, but rewriting your projections, projection correction, where when you notice that you're projecting an outcome that you don't want, become aware of it, forgive it, and then why don't you just use your imagination, because it's only in your imagination. This is a pro tip. So this is a really practical point for those of you who are doing the process. For anybody who's not doing the process, again, look up the words on that, because then you're definitely wasting time. But you can rewrite that memory inside of you that's being projected outwards, that memory of failure that you have inside of you that's being projected outwards into your future, right? You can rewrite that for the outcome that you want. So for example, oh, I'm going to go talk to this person. It's going to go very poorly, blah, blah, blah. As soon as you become aware that you're doing that, you're worrying, negative goal setting. There's another way to say that, right? It's like, become aware of that, forgive yourself for doing that, and then kind of lay that out. What exactly were you thinking is going to happen? And then rewrite it to what you want to happen. Because there's a good point of realization is thinking that X, like if you do X, it's automatically going to result in a negative outcome, is not taking responsibility for the fact that you actually have any effect in the world. And what that means is, how do you not realize that the way that you participate in something is the determining factor? How do you not realize that the way you say something, or the way, like what you give of yourself into something, is the determining factor? It's a really important realization, because
Like saying
projecting,
you're gonna go play professional football and walk through the motions. So you're playing professional football, but you're just walking through the motions. Or you're doing it to the best of your ability. Like there's a drastic difference there.
right? It's like thinking that, oh, if I go do this thing, it's not going to turn out right. Why wouldn't it turn out right? Because I'm sure there's somebody in your mind that you're projecting that if they were to do it, man, they'd be able to handle it. I just want them to do it. I just want my dad to handle the situation. I want Cameron to handle the situation. I want them to handle the situation. It's like, unless we're talking about like your sprint speed or your, like some very physical attribute, there's nothing that separates my ability to learn and your ability to learn. At the end of the day, that's what makes a successful person. So kind of bringing it back down and back down and back down and back, we will create whatever's inside of us. We're always fulfilling a purpose. And if you look at the word disease, Mitch, can you look up, you're always like on the ball. So
You want me to look on
in Google, just so everybody can look it up. And then read to me the first one.
disease noun, a disorder of structure or function in a human, animal, or plant, especially one that produces specific signs or symptoms, or that affects a specific location and is not simply a direct result of physical injury.
So we're just gonna, just for the sake of simplicity and the essence of it, just remove the especially part and just reread the first part.
A disorder of structure or function in a human, animal, or plant.
So we're just going to focus on the human being. We have disorder of structure or function in the human. Function is the same thing as purpose. If you look at the word function, it's the same thing. Just like a drill has a function, a tree has a function. The point is, if you are not considering reality and what you're here for, and you are not considering life, then you will incorrectly choose your purpose.
Mm.
Because if I asked, what's the purpose? I did this on the Self-Perfected Hangout. It's like, what's the purpose of a tree? What'd you guys say? Somebody.
Oxygen.
Shade. Produce fruit.
Produce fruit, produce
Grow.
oxygen, produce shade. What's the purpose of a hammer?
From eroding.
It's a hammer
It's a hammer.
to
Knock
beat
stuff in.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the
Take
purpose?
names out.
What's the purpose of the sun?
Of
Heat
what?
things up.
Light,
the sun.
heat.
Portal to another dimension where alien spaceships are going to come through and save humanity.
To work up.
Scientology? Is that Scientology?
That's a message that Cameron
It's the
got
son of
once.
God.
When Cameron reads
Somebody
the
said that
definition,
to me. They were like, when you get $3,000 in your bank account, you'll be glad that the sun was a portal to another dimension and spaceships came in and all of a sudden, like, okay.
did you get sold?
Nah.
No. So anyway, what's the actual purpose? That's the only one I heard. What are you guys saying?
Light and heat. And I'm sure on some levels it affects,
Probably
organisms.
gravitational pull, maybe. At least
Mhm.
that's what I was taught. growing
So
up.
this is cool. There's cool points, right? It's like if we really consider it, everything that we just mentioned is to describe the function of that particular object in relation to other things.
Mhm,
Because even to provide shade, like you're providing shade for something,
mhm.
right? You're providing oxygen for something. So like, how
yeah.
did a tree know to provide oxygen? It's automatically in the reality that humans and trees are, interwoven, interdependent. It's interesting, right?
Mm.
Same thing with the sun. It's like specifically designed to produce life on Earth. Because it was like if it was 1 degree of in the orbit, like closer to the sun, like 1 magnitude closer, one
No more
magnitude
white
further away. But if it was one more
That would
magnitude
solve
away,
all of our problems. Honestly.
Everyone's an oppressor.
problem
Oh,
solved.
that was
If there's
that's
1 more degree
that was
away,
wrong.
everyone's
That's the
oppressor.
only thing that's wrong with creation. The sun isn't close enough.
That's it. That's it.
So
Better
Put a,
just restart.
put a lasso around the sun and bring
Reset.
it closer.
that's what
The
the great
answer
reset is.
Yeah.
is to
Great
bring the
reset.
sun closer.
Isn't
Somehow we
it
gotta-
Bill Gates wants to block out the sun?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's trying to make all white people.
He wants a dust cloud.
Whoa. Yeah, we got to get closer to the sun, guys.
Go
Maybe
anyways.
we all go on one side of the earth and push.
I think we finally got
Or no, we'll just all run in the other direction and like make it spin the other way or something.
Well, wouldn't that make it spin faster if you're running
You go
that
the
way?
other way.
Okay,
the
that
opposite
other way.
direction. Yeah.
So run with the direction of it, because your
Yeah.
feet will push it.
Let's all run in the direction of it, make it go faster. Then all jump up at the same time and see if like
Okay, so everybody run left starting from now. Imagine that's how you thought it worked.
why does the Earth keep spinning?
Why does it keep spinning?
Is the earth
Yeah.
spinning at all?
Yes.
Wow, now we're really asking the deeper questions.
It always spins in the same direction too.
One Direction. Oh shit, dude. That's why they made that band. Oh my god,
It's
dude.
Illuminati propaganda.
666 Illuminati confirmed, dude.
Why does an electron spin?
Also One Direction.
Because of one of the 6 dimensions.
That's why.
That
But
Harry
isn't that
Styles
just like
wearing a
it's fulfilling
dress.
its purpose, right?
Mm.
But why do human beings like we don't know our purpose?
That's what man.
I know. I just wanted to steal your spell.
Oh, spell.
Dude, I hope you understand. I always know where you're
See
going.
you later, guys. All right.
Bye.
He always knows.
One more to go.
All knowing.
And then we'll have the perfect race podcast.
Oh, that's me.
Actually, sorry, I didn't mean to assume your race is Jess and Mitch.
Yeah, what the fuck, Cam?
Yeah, why'd you
Sorry.
assume my race? What the
I'm
fuck?
harmed.
Oh yeah, sorry, Drake. Damn. See,
Yeah.
this is the problem, isn't it? How do you know
Is
if a
someone
person
who's from
has the?
Antarctica considered Caucasian,
Why?
or are
Why?
people not born on Antarctica?
I think they're just penguins.
Nobody's born on Antarctica.
Well, maybe there's like a scientist researcher down there, and they're like.
But
you
there's
know,
no
having
native
babies.
Antarcticans.
Not that we're aware of.
Huh.
I don't know. I've heard
I don't
some
know.
wild conspiracy theories about
I've
Antarctica.
heard some. I've heard the same. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. There's
But
like
they're never empowering in any way whatsoever. Like
no, it's
taking
like
responsibility.
there's some overlord other race on some other planet, and then they built all these pyramids, and Antarctica was like their main place, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's so much greater than me. Fuck it, better just go complain.
The
And
one
if
I
everybody
heard.
knows about it, then everyone will suddenly change.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well,
no, you're still gonna go to
otherwise,
Costco with a
always.
fucking mask on. Like, give me that.
Yeah, that's
If
true.
everybody knew coronavirus was a conspiracy, then they would all wake up. It's like, no, they'll tell you to wear a mask.
They would all wake up and tell you got to wear a mask.
You don't have to keep that up. Thank you, Asif. I just don't want to. I don't want to indoctrinate the youth.
Yeah.
What youth is listening to our podcast?
I know too. They have cool shirts like these too.
Oh, our shirt, buddy. Because what-
So, what do you guys want to talk about today? Comment if you think if you know what we should talk about next.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey,
yeah,
that's-
yeah.
that's a
What
good one.
topics you want us to talk about?
Comment live and see
us in.
if through the law of reversal of time you can change the course of the podcast.
Let's
Place your
talk
comments now.
about topics.
So here's the point. Okay.
Hold on, read the comments first. Pick the best one.
Topics. Wait, this isn't a live podcast. When are we gonna go live on
Jess-
YouTube?
Jess, you're
That'd be
being
If
cool.
somebody's smart, they'll listen to what you say next. They'll go back, they'll rewind the video, they'll place a comment of what you're about to talk about, and then it'll look like that they made it happen.
Okay, wait 1 second. 1 second. Let me read the comments. They're saying they want.
That'll be like the highlight of the
finish.
day. They're like, I'm so smart.
They're saying they want me to finish my idea about disease and the human being.
Hold on,
Okay.
I'm deleting that comment.
Oh, now it just says
Well-
that they want Cameron to just keep spelling. Okay.
Hold
All
on,
right.
I thought you were. What was the point about the disease? Is it still?
Well, here's
blank?
the thing, right?
Okay.
How fucking retarded would it be if a tree was just like, I'm just gonna stop producing oxygen. I'm just gonna take carbon dioxide. I just want carbon dioxide.
Oh, dude, Bill Gates is like, oh yeah. Oh, tell me more about these trees.
No.
This is like Bill Gates like
Wet
fanfic
dream.
porn.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, and then the trees evolved to suck up all the carbon dioxide.
He's like, wait. How much does the oceans suck carbon dioxide?
How
out
much
of
carbon
it?
dioxide can we fit in the oceans?
Oh my god, are we net zero yet? I'm almost net zero. I'm almost net zero.
I'm about to net. No net November.
I think this might be a.
I'm sweating, dude.
This podcast should be called Good Vibrations.
I like it.
Got your good vibration. And got your sweet.
Wait, is that the lyrics to that?
That's not the one I was thinking of.
Was that actually what they say? Good vibrations? I didn't know that.
100%. I think it's called Good Vibrations. Isn't
I
it?
was thinking of the Beach Boys version, a
Oh.
Beach Boys song.
Not Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Mark Wahlberg?
No.
That sounds dope. That's Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, I know.
Mark in this one.
That's
Okay,
Mark Wahlberg. He's not no.
dude,
This is an important person.
blew my mind, dude.
Mark Wahlberg. You must know.
I should have done this. I should have done the Mitchell. Dude, I just found out something crazy, dude.
This portion of the podcast is where we roast each other.
No, I love it. Yeah, this is
Put a comment below of who got roasted the hardest.
It's a hard-
If one like for Jess, dislike for Asif.
one share for Cameron.
We're gonna have too many
Comment for
dislikes.
Drake. Yeah. Okay, motherfuckers. So the point is, if a tree were to do that, it's not sustainable. The tree is abusing itself because it's not going to get oxygen in return. Or sorry, carbon dioxide in return because it's not producing oxygen. Right. So the point is, the purpose of a tree is determined in relation to other life, the rest of nature. So we run through, and I was going through this with somebody, and I was like, so what's the purpose of a tree? What's the purpose of the sun? What's the purpose of human being? They're like, right, exactly. That's why you're experiencing disease, because the word disorder, if you look up the word disorder, it's a state of confusion. And you're confused about the function of a human, which is literally the definition of disease. By definition, you don't have to believe me. You don't have to be a fucking doctor. You just have to be able to know how to read. You have to have the critical thinking ability to be like, okay, what is it really? And then go deeper until you figure it out. What is a state of confusion? The word confusion means lack of understanding. The word understanding.
The words programmed correctly.
Exactly, right? Understanding is the ability to understand, or comprehension. Comprehension just means the ability to understand. The word understand means the ability to perceive the intended meaning of words.
Wait,
So-
say that last part one more time.
Spells.
If you put that equation into, if you swap out disorder, you can swap out the word disorder for the definition of disorder, which is a state of confusion about the function of a human being or the purpose of a human being, synonymous. That's what disease is by definition. I'm not making it up. You can look it up for yourself, right? If you swap out the word confusion for the definition of confusion, of lack of understanding, and you swap out understanding for the definition of understanding, which is ability to understand, what we have is the state of an inability to understand is what the function of a human being is. That is the definition of disease. And then if we swap out the word understand for the definition of it, is the state, being in the state of having a lack of ability to perceive the intended meaning of words in regards to the structure or function of a human being. That I just told you the definition of disease.
If you take that at face value, you need to stop the podcast and go look up all those words yourself if you haven't done it yourself. Because just hearing him say that, you're gonna be like, what? It's like hearing all these people who are intelligent speak about things, and you're like, well, I don't get that. Hearing Cam talk about different dimensions and be like, what the fuck? You know, like you're not processing that information. And I mean, if you have TechnoTutor, again, just look up the word dumbass and then go get TechnoTutor, because just hearing what he's saying and going, oh wow, that was really nice, that I learned something. That's like the same thing as like learning something from a teacher who just repeats things and you're like, oh yes, I got it. But you didn't actually learn anything. You weren't able to put that together yourself. There's a reason why you're not able to put these things together yourself. And so that's because of your processing ability. It's because you're full of disease. But if you're hearing this and you don't stop it and go and look up all those words, you're just kind of using this as entertainment, and you're not actually considering things for yourself. And that's part of the problem that we are facing in this world today, right? It's a big part of the problem. Earlier, Cam was saying about, actually, we were all saying how education is playing a major role in the condition and the state that the world is in. Mm-hmm. Because look at how many people are clamoring for a vaccine. It's really weird.
Oh my gosh.
It's really weird, right? And the reason why I say it's really weird. Go ahead, Cam. Go ahead.
Well, I just saw this. I was like going through my Facebook last night.
Yeah.
And there was like one of those things where it's like you can keep swiping and it moves it, like an ad sort of thing. And it was
like a
first one was, it was like, they were like little videos. And one of them was, the first one was Arsenio Hall, Danny Trejo, that actor, right? Or I think, I'm not sure that's his last name, whatever it is. And Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
All three together talking about how they got the vaccine.
Yeah.
And then the next one was Dolly Parton. Right. And then the next one was, oh damn, I can't remember who it was.
I'm sure they got paid to get it.
If you don't
It was somebody
identify
else, but it
with
was
the
so
black
random who
guys,
that one. If I remember, I'll tell you. But it was just so random, like the people that they were. It was like everybody's got a person that they can like.
yeah, identify with.
Yeah, it was just. It was like I was laughing because it was just so ridiculous. And like and it was funny because Magic Johnson. I'm like, the dude apparently fucking was immune to AIDS.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, I got my coronavirus.
Wait, why? You survived AIDS, bro. You survived HIV. Clearly, you've got the cure. Anyway, I was watching Brett Weinstein, and I know we've talked about him before, but he's a biologist, right? Apparently, I was talking about Brett Weinstein before, but I was actually meaning to say Eric Weinstein, so retraction. But Brett Weinstein was talking about vaccines, and he was talking about how somebody had come out and said that the benefits, or he was, the way he said it, it was a very particular way he said it, but basically he said that what you get from the vaccine outweighs the risks. And Brett Weinstein was saying that is a very dangerous statement. You can't say that. You cannot say that because we don't know all the risks, first of all. And then he was saying,
How can they already know? Yeah, go ahead.
second of all, here is a huge thing that nobody is talking about. And it's so crazy because when he said it, I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know this. They were saying that, so you know how there's RNA vaccines, right? Where they're putting RNA into your bloodstream, right? And the RNA is supposed to make its way to your cells, where the ribosomes within your cells then produce protein. And the protein that it produces, it creates like a spike on the outside of your cells that tells your immune system essentially, hey, come attack this cell. You need to learn what this is so that if you see this being created in the body, you remove it right away, right? You need to learn what this is and deal with it appropriately. However, in your bloodstream, there is something called RNase, right? Which is, it eats RNA. And
So just to clarify, you're saying RNAs,
yeah,
like ASE,
It's like veganase, but
like
it's
mayonnaise,
made of
RNA.
RNA.
yeah.
It's called RNA. It's actually good.
ASE.
But it's basically like, as I understand it, it's an enzyme that eats RNA, right? And destroys it, gets rid of it in your bloodstream. And there may be some really practical reasons for it. From what our science understands right now, they don't know why this is so prevalent within our bloodstream. But essentially, it could be, when your body produces, uses RNA or whatever, and then the cells spit it out into the bloodstream. This is just cleaning it up so that you don't overproduce and have like a dysfunction of some sort,
Right, a glut of
Yeah.
RNA just
Yeah. And so this could be just like the garbage men and just making sure that doesn't happen. Or it could be if foreign RNA gets into your bloodstream, that could be a really big deal. And so that's like there to protect you of some sort. We don't
Seems
know
like a
that
good idea.
actually.
You don't want just people be able to send like little
Right.
viruses to you all the time.
So what that means then is when RNA is introduced into your bloodstream, it gets obliterated immediately. So how do they get this RNA to then be delivered to your cells without it being completely destroyed? Well, they have something called a lipid nanoparticle, right?
Oh shit.
Where they have to coat the RNA in metal and a proprietary blend of chemicals that you don't know what they are. They will not disclose what they are, right? So that it can basically swim through all the RNAs, make it unscathed. The thing that is literally built in your body to destroy this thing cannot access it. And it gets into your cells and then it starts recreating itself.
Whoa, shit, dude.
Doesn't that sound fucking insane? Like, why would you introduce that into your, like, okay, you're going to inject metal into your body. You're going to inject chemicals into your body that you don't know what they are. You
I don't want to
literally
get COVID
cannot
and
know what
die,
they are.
Drake. That's why.
I'd rather get a bomb injected into my bloodstream than
And-
get COVID.
It's like you're injecting a bomb into your bloodstream with the vaccine, right? And then here's the other thing that was like blowing my
Dude.
mind.
But wait, there's more.
There's
Holy
more.
shit.
RNA is very fragile, right?
Fuck.
And so in order for it to,
Kind of like white people.
just like white people,
Mhm.
we call it RNA fragility.
Read a book about it.
Yeah. But in order for it to, so part of that chemical blend is to keep it together, but also in order to store it so that it doesn't deteriorate on its own, they have to keep it at these super cold temperatures, right? And then when they're administering it, you can't administer it at that super cold temperature because just the temperature of that liquid entering your body alone will
Obviously.
cause major problems,
Yeah.
potentially death, you know? So they have to heat it up very quickly. And like it's just like this whole process of everything going on. It has to happen lock and key. And the reason why I was thinking about this is because at my local grocery store, they've become a center. It's the funniest fucking thing to me. They've become a center where you can get the vaccine at the grocery store. And it's not like it's in a sterile room or anything. It's literally at the entrance of the grocery store. I walk
It's like at the checkout where it's like where you get the lollipops and stuff, and at the end where you're like, oh,
Like-
let's just grab one
No,
of
it's
those.
literally
Like-
where the doors open and close. Literally,
It's not
right-
like it's not like okay,
Someone's like standing there like coughing. They're like giving them. the
That's
vaccine.
me.
Like,
That's me. Yeah. And it's the funniest fucking thing to me because like, look at how much they have to go through just to keep this thing preserved, just to even get it into your body, right? If they miss this time window of like them heating it up from, it coming from the super cold temperature, it's fucked. You can't use it anymore, right? You can't go from like keeping it cold to heating it up to keeping it cold again. If you, it's so delicate. And yet,
more delicate than raw chicken, dude.
yeah, right. But yet we're like afraid of getting this virus, which is essentially, by the way, you're making yourself sick. I don't know if you've heard, virtually everyone's heard the stories of, especially the second shot, you get really sick, right? I've heard so many people, not everyone, but so many people I've heard of getting really sick from taking that second shot. And they're like,
Like
no,
you
that's,
get sick and some people are dying. And they're like,
and they're like,
yes,
wait,
but that's the risk you have to take. And I'm like, then
That's
why do you just apply that
supposed to
logic to
happen.
fucking the virus itself? Like,
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
that's what I was saying. Like, fuck it. I mean,
That's what they're saying, is that's what's supposed to happen so that your body knows. So wouldn't the same fucking thing happen if you just got the virus?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
And so it's really interesting, like all the,
Metals and
like
chemicals.
if you could understand all of this, if society at large could understand all of this, wouldn't they just see through it and just go like, well, that's just silly. Why would I do all that stuff? Because I'm going to get sick anyway, more than likely. And it's basically teaching my body to do the same thing that it's supposed to do if I get sick. So, plus I got to take the risk of adding in these chemicals into my body and metal and I don't know what these chemicals are. And they're preservatives, right? But they're literally preserving from my immune system being able to attack that thing. Why don't I just go ahead and get sick? Like, why don't I just take that risk of like, and I might not even get sick. Like, why would I
the
do
old
this?
people. Old people. Don't you want to
Grandma.
protect the old people that you can't see?
Where are
Don't
they?
you want to protect them while they sit at home and hide?
And shut down the
Destroy
entire economy.
Yeah.
So economies around the world all crash and even more people go into starvation and
And it
poverty.
brings down the stock market, which is what all their pensions are based on.
Hey,
Let's just do that instead.
that economy point is really cool as well. There's this theory of it's called I think it's called Wallerstein's world theory, right? And it's also referred to as like core theory. And it's basically the idea that there are core countries, there's semi-periphery countries, and then there's periphery countries, right?
Mhm.
And basically, in Wallerstein's model, there's never a chance for all the countries to become core countries. Or in other words, there's never a chance for all the countries to become first world countries, to become dominant countries. It's always going to be some few countries are the main ones, and they distribute to the other countries their leftovers, their scraps, essentially. So basically, all the power is held here, for example, the US. And then there are some semi-periphery countries like Mexico that they'll get some of the labor that we outsource. We outsource labor to them. And so they benefit off of that. And then there's periphery countries where they're basically like pretty much in the Stone Age. That's like Afghanistan or parts of Afghanistan, right? And so in this model, it's like there is the possibility for countries to change, but if one country changes, that changes the balance so that now there has to be a different periphery country.
Damn.
So one of the periphery countries, or semi-periphery country rather, is China. And they're emerging right now as a core country, which means somebody in the core group is getting displaced.
Equal to how much China is rising.
Yeah.
And that's what all this stuff is about, isn't it?
Yeah. That's in their eyes, in the system's eyes, that's equality. There's never
replace China.
True. What was that? What was your question?
who's gonna.
Well,
Who is China
the
knocking
goal
out?
is the Western countries.
Well, yeah.
You guys remember that video of like
Think
what's
about it.
gonna
They already have gone into Africa. They've already gone into the Middle East, all these other points.
And China's
Now
in
they-
Africa as well.
That's why I was saying that all this stuff is to bring down the people who are the biggest threat to that system. So they're like, we have to get rid of all the white middle class in America because those are the people who actually believe freedom is the most important thing. I'm not saying nobody else does. I'm saying that as the largest collective, unified, in a sense, group, like believes like, no, I should have the right to X, Y, and Z. Versus if you're like, I'm not saying the Chinese people, but the Chinese Communist Party, you're like, no, you don't have any rights. Like, that's not the thing.
You know what I see like really clearly is Europe, like Western Europe, those countries that are right now considered like, I would say like Italy, Spain, Germany, like those kinds of countries. Those are the ones that are going to get put into the semi-periphery first. Like they're making it seem like it's us versus China, right? And there is a big point there. But
yeah, I agree with you. The European country. I mean, look at the ones how they're taking on the coronavirus.
they've already got like in Spain, they've already got high youth unemployment, right? Before coronavirus, they had that, right? Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of natural resources there, in the way that we have natural resources here, or even in how they extract natural resources from their prospective African countries, their colonies or whatever, it still is like that.
What did you mean when you said China is in Africa?
Oh, I mean like how all the European countries did colonialism in Africa. And then when it was deemed that colonialism is bad, it just turned into neocolonialism, which is basically, okay, so now we have a manufacturing plant over there, or we're still extracting resources, but now it's not because we are your king or queen, it's because we have more economic might.
They're coming in there and they're giving everybody cheap money, like loans and all this stuff. So it's like an economic point. So they're basically just buying everything.
Right.
And so
we have a different kind of,
China's getting money for everybody basically.
And putting in the data infrastructure too, so that Huawei or whatever these Chinese companies are putting in all those networks instead of, the US, we have Xfinity or whatever the fuck it is, right?
Yeah. And also how we have like made in China, they're like outsourcing their labor, what they deem as cheap labor, to Africa or their respective countries in Africa.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't it?
A Chinese person's like, what is this made in Nigeria crap? We need to get back to making things here in China.
Quality goods.
What do you think when Chinese people in China see made in China? What do they think? Are they like, oh, this crap? Or are they like, oh, finally?
But do they ever get a chance to see Made in America? Like we
know.
barely get that.
I'm reading this book. I talked about it before. It's called Vagabonds.
Mhm.
It's by Hao Jingfeng, I think, something like that. It's a Chinese author. It's translated into English. So it's originally a Chinese, like from China novel. Not that old. It's like not even, I think 4 or 5 years old at the most, because it had to be translated. But it was just published in English, like I think last year. But it's about Earth and Mars, and the Earth is hyper capitalist, and Mars is socialist, but not even socialist. Like nothing that you would see as an example in the current world system in any example would describe what it is there. So I'm just using that term very loosely, but it's obviously a metaphor for socialism, communism, something along those lines, collectivism, right? And basically it's like these two different worlds where here you have your basic needs met, but it's only just enough for you to survive. And then if you want to do something beyond that, you have to join sort of like a collective called an atelier, and then they give you public funding and so forth. And everything that they have, all of your data is in a centralized system called the Central Archive. Versus in America, it's sort of the opposite. There is no guarantee, but you have ultimate freedom. You can pretty much do whatever you want, but then everything is hyper capitalist, consumption. There's no meaning to life beyond just like partying and having fun and making money and so forth. And on Mars, it's about creativity, and it's about sharing what you create with people rather than having to get them to pay for it. So it's like you just give it to people for free. So it's more about how many people view what you're doing than it is how much money you accumulate from it. And so,
do you think they put that communist country on Mars because it's the red planet?
That's an interesting point. They're constantly referring to that, but it's like when I'm reading it, I'm like, this is obvious propaganda.
Yeah.
Because they make it seem like, and I mean, there's some conflict in the book, and I won't spoil it for anybody in case you want to read it, but as you're reading it, you get this kind of perspective of like, this is literally trying to make it like the US is this evil capitalist, just everything's about freedom, but then the inherent conflict between the two, and only one can be correct or something. And I don't know where the book's going to go. I'm only like halfway. It's pretty obviously like some kind of form of propaganda within that.
That's so cool that you read books.
It's funny how like you don't spoil the book for the people on this podcast. Like you're assuming they're gonna read it. That's look at how highly we think of our fan base, our listeners. We think you're gonna read.
I posted a comment on Facebook the other day. I said, if you didn't read as many books as Bill Gates last week, your parents didn't educate you properly. And somebody wrote, well, I think it's more about quality of what you're reading versus quantity. And I'm like, who writes that comment?
The person who can't read.
The one trying to justify that they didn't read.
Yeah.
And I was like, it doesn't seem like you're certain. And they were like, oh, I'm certain. They said, I am. And, and I said, and they said something else. And I said, who has more influence in this world, you or Bill Gates? And they were like, we do. They said, we. They said, we do.
Like the royal we?
They said something like, and it may be that Bill Gates is on his way out. Something like that. Again, doesn't sound like they're certain. Right? But I could see within what they're saying exactly their mindset, which is like, oh, Bill Gates, like somehow he's going to not be there anymore. And it's going to be, everything else is going to just come forward and it's going to work out. And like all of that. Oh, am I too far away?
Like right? Q's going to come in and displace.
I don't know exactly, but clearly something to the effect of
Q is back.
He's going to be gone. His way is the old way. He's being exposed, all this stuff. And it's like, when has that ever happened?
Yeah.
And this is another thing too. I don't know what we'll put into the podcast, but maybe some of that stuff about talking about the dimensions. The reason I brought it up was, doesn't your mind immediately go to there's these dimensions out there?
Yeah.
That are higher than us.
Yeah.
Better than us. Better experience.
Outside of us.
And what's cool about the string theory stuff is a way of conceiving extra dimensions that you can't perceive that are here in physical reality, which are not magnificent, amazing places to be, that are essential to the structure of the way we experience things.
What if like
that you're not going to go to and have some amazing life and experience of? This is all you have. If you don't get it here, you don't get it.
I
like
think,
imagine, you know, like the whole spiritual point of like everybody's ascending to, what is it, the fifth dimension or whatever?
Yeah.
Like imagine like the fourth dimension is like everybody just valuing themselves based off how much money they make, and then the fifth dimension is valuing yourself based off your identity politics.
Yeah.
Like that's the dimension that everybody's expanded into, of like, okay, this dimension of myself is like my sexuality is the most important thing, or this dimension of myself is like my race, the color of my skin is the most important thing. That's like a dimension of the human being, right?
Think about this, 2012, right? Everyone was like, oh, we're all going to ascend and all this stuff, right? And then it didn't happen. And they're like, well, no, it happened. It's just you can't see the effects of it yet. You know what I mean? Like it has happened. It's just your consciousness is not there yet.
they were
Now
right.
now look around you.
Yeah.
You've ascended.
Look at world around us. Has it actually gone into that dimension, or has it gone into a devolution?
Yeah.
Evolution. Yeah.
It's
Demolition.
like you just said, like it's clearly like identity politics. It's more ego, which is actually the consciousness is evolving.
Yeah. They were right. They were right.
Yeah.
You'd made this point before on a different chat that we were on, about how our universe is a finite universe, right? But the infinite exists within that, right? And I was considering that of like, how can the infinite exist in the finite? And just looking at the number, just looking at between 0 and 1, it's finite, right? But within that, there is an infinite amount of numbers you can have between 0 and 1.
Subdivisions.
Exactly. It's another fraction. It's another dimension.
Think about a piece of licorice, right? That's finite in length.
I'm
Wait,
thinking
which
about that
kind of
licorice.
licorice? The regular licorice or the pull apart licorice? The strawberry?
I'm thinking like the
or
kind
the
that's
cherry?
like braided, you know?
Or the sticks that licorice is made
Or
from.
the straws. Oh, or the tropical?
There's
It has to
basically
be
an
tropical
infinite amount of
flavor.
licorice. So
It has to be tropical flavor for this
That's the
analogy
point.
to work. Point was something that's cylindrical, right?
Okay.
But it has an end and a beginning. It's finite, right?
Mhm.
But if you start and you walk around it in a circle, you just keep coming back and back forever, right?
Wow.
There's infinity in a finite point.
In a
And
different
that-
dimension of how you're measuring the original finiteness.
Right. And that, well, that's in fact, in string theory, that's one of the classic examples they use to explain how there can be hidden dimensions in things. They say, like, imagine you have a garden hose stretched across the Grand Canyon and you're like 100 meters away. You just see like this thin line. So it looks one dimensional, right?
Yeah.
But then an ant crawling on it, right? They could go around in a circle, and to them, it's like this gigantic thing. So they could go, so it's actually two-dimensional to them, right? So, but at that smaller scale, there's two dimensions versus at our scale, it seems like only one dimension. So in string theory, part of it is that there's hidden dimensions in each point in space that you just can't perceive because they're at such a microscopic scale.
That makes sense.
But
So that's
in that
literally how
video-
people are perceiving the coronavirus. The only solution,
Yeah, they're just perceiving it from the context of, okay, am I going
only-
to die or am I going to not die?
the finite.
right. And in that point you were talking about, Drake, there's a audio by Bernard Pullman. You can look it up on YouTube. It's called The Finite Universe as Solution. And it's interesting because he makes this cool point. It took me a while to get it, but he said, it's finite. There's a beginning, there's an end, right? But why does it seem like there's an infinity in it? It's because it's the polarity of energy going back to positive, back to negative. So there can be like an infinity cycle between positive and negative,
Mhm.
even though there is a finite, there's a beginning, there is an end. Your life has a beginning, your life has an end. The universe has a beginning, the universe has an end. And when I was looking at that point, it's like, who is taking that seriously? What does the idea of heaven give you? Is that, oh, this is just a temporary point and we'll go on to the next point. And there's never going to be an end to anything. I don't
Right.
ever need to take it seriously.
Wow.
Right.
Like it it creates this point where you don't have to take. I mean, heaven is the most white supremacist concept that has ever existed.
True.
If you think about it,
In
not
essence,
just in the imagery of it,
in essence, yeah.
but in the actual fun, the essence of it, because it's like saying you don't have to take responsibility.
Mhm.
Wow.
And I mean, it's the white light. That's the actual white supremacy. Is the white light? Is energy.
Yeah.
It's not white skin. I mean, I have a pretty decent tan for the winter.
Yes, yeah. It's
It's
actually
not too bad.
Yeah.
It's
Bro,
not light.
I'm the lightest I've been in a long time. I'm gonna
Yeah,
go over there and
Texas.
get dark.
Did you say, Jess?
I said you live in Texas.
Yeah.
Come to Minnesota for a winter. I want to
Actually,
see your
I lived in
skin
North
after
Dakota
that.
at some point. I lived in North Dakota at one point.
Oh yeah.
Let me see some pictures of you in North Dakota. I bet your skin's a little lighter.
It's just like covered in like clothes.
But Drake, I appreciate you bringing up that.
Darker. No
the
way.
Point, the point that I'm lightest I've ever been. Is that
No,
the
no,
point
no.
you appreciate?
The
Oh
light.
yeah.
How
Why
did
aren't you the
Eskimos
lightest you've ever
have
been?
dark skin?
It's a good question.
Actually,
Do they? Or they
Wait.
just look kind of like Asian or something?
What was the question?
Asian.
Yeah,
That's gotta be it.
Here,
It's like,
I'm gonna
it's
look
like
it
a
up.
more like a native look. No.
But they're kind of like darker skin, right?
Yeah.
Are Eskimos the thing? The
Here,
people that
Someone
live in
got, someone got
Antarctica?
mad when I said
No,
Eskimos
they're in
one
the-
time. They
they're
said
in the
it's
north.
First Nations.
The Inuit people have yellowish brown skin despite the far northern latitude in which they live, unlike other populations of the same latitude, such as the Swedes and Finnish.
Let me
It's true
see
because
pictures of
it's
them.
true because if you're a native to Canada, like the Algonquin people and things like that, they generally have like they're not white. They have darker skin. Not like black skin, but like Mitchell described it, yellowish brown. But the point I wanted to mention, everybody's looking up like skin color and stuff like that. We're getting sucked into the
Eskimos.
we're transcending to the fifth dimension.
That's right.
The infinity loop of polarity
There's
Transition.
maps out there that show you by skin color,
where
like
people live.
that in Africa, in the center of Africa, it's the darkest. And then as you go up into Europe, it gets lighter red, and then it gets to a tan. And then you get into like
Way up
further
there, and
north
it's, like,
of
pale.
Italy, it's getting like my skin color. And then up further than that, in top of Russia, it's like super pale, almost completely white. But it
Which
just is
doesn't make
saying like
sense,
this
though.
is the
That's
skin.
also how I describe your skin color.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm white. Look at my teeth and look at my skin. Okay, there's a difference.
Mitch has some color. He's like a little bit like, but just has like the
I identify as
the
pink
pinkish
American.
glow. Yeah, she has like the blood
Like,
flow. in her
like a
face.
porcelain doll.
I'm a pink American.
But Drake, that point that you're bringing up about like the lipid nanoparticles.
I'd like to hear about it. Yes.
What? No.
Yes.
I was just saying that's fascinating. That's so fascinating. I want to look that up.
Yeah, the nano technology stuff is pretty crazy.
I didn't even know.
And like, what's the consequence of that when they start developing that, where they can literally just blow dust in the air and like, there's nothing you can do about it. It's like going to
It's
go in your
crazy.
body forever,
Right.
and your body can't break it down. Apparently, I don't know what the half-life is on these particles that they're talking about.
It's metal.
No,
It's
I'm
metal.
gonna look it
dude.
up. Liquid
No, lipid.
nano.
Lipid.
Lipid.
Yeah, like the fatty layer.
No, I heard you say it. I just wrote liquid back.
Okay.
Lipid nanoparticles. Here we go. That's an actual. They're called nanolipids.
Cameron, when he Googles something, he realized a couple of years back that if he doesn't say "here we go," it doesn't work.
Exactly. Don't you guys have to do that?
It's
Part of-
only,
part of
it's
the
only
spell.
your resonance that
Drake
has
had-
to speak those
Drake
words.
had to mute himself because he was loving that one. He's
Check
like,
this out. Lipid nanoparticles are the most clinically advanced non-viral gene delivery system.
Oh, so
Wait
now
a
you want
minute.
to
Literally genetically modifying people.
Wait a
Lipid
minute.
nanoparticles, listen to this, safely and effectively deliver nucleic. Why do they always say that?
dude, just look up vaccine reactions and then go to the CDC websites, and the whole fucking web page is it's extremely rare. It doesn't happen. The first bullet point is like vaccine reactions and adverse reactions. First bullet point, vaccines are extremely safe and effective. and then you go down and then it talks about the reactions, but they are closing so hard. I feel like I'm scrolling like a fucking one pager from I just clicked on a marketing ad to buy somebody's course, and they're closing.
Yeah, it's a
something out of me.
fucking sales page.
It's amazing. And the
Yeah.
average person is just, they're not like,
That's a good
they're
comparison.
looking at that shit. They're not
That's a
even
good
looking at
comparison.
it
Yeah.
because they don't want to look at it. Right? It's like, man, there's so much.
And what's interesting is, as far as I understand, the way it works with liability and stuff, they don't have to admit liability or anything if something goes wrong. So they can keep saying it's safe and effective because there's no actual admission of anything,
Somebody
even if they pay out for it, as far as I understand.
somebody was saying, okay, so years ago we got rid of vaccine liability for the manufacturers of the vaccine, right?
Mhm.
The pharmaceutical companies can't be liable, or those who are distributing it rather can't be liable because they didn't manufacture it. And then now, if you have the FDA has not even approved this, who's held liable for any of this?
Oh, no, that makes so much sense about why the vaccines are not FDA approved. I remember I mentioned that to somebody, and they're like, "What? No, it's got to be FDA." If you go to Moderna's website, it says this is not FDA approved. It's because of the emergency.
Emergency use.
They probably don't want it
Emergency
approved.
act. Yeah, that makes so much sense about why they don't want to approve it, because they don't want to put their name behind it. Because then they're like, okay, that makes so much sense.
The question is just basically, who do you go to if you get hurt for this emergency use? Which, by the way, this vaccine came out, or all these vaccines came out in less than 8 months, right? Roughly speaking. And before then, and it's funny because I was talking with someone, and she worked in the clinical field, and I was like, "So, the fastest vaccine, how long has it come out?" And she's like, "I don't know." And I'm like, "It's 4 years, 4 years, right? That's the fastest one before this, right? This one came out in 8 months." And her excuse is, "Well, everybody put their effort towards this one, so there's so much money and so much effort that went into this, and like, it just, you can't really compare time in that sense." I'm like, okay, well, it's not FDA approved. It's still on an emergency use. Like you can, I think each one of these things individually, you can come up with an excuse for, right? But then when you put it all together, it's like, that shit don't add up, right? It's like, if you have a glass and you break it on the ground and you try gluing it together again, it's not going to be the same. That you can clearly see it's broken. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, with the individual pieces, that's it's kind of like what Asif was saying earlier with the whole how people identify within themselves of there we have, you can be whatever you want. You can be whatever you want. It sounds really good. Blanket statement. You can be whatever you want. You can be man, you can be female, you can express yourself whatever way you want, right?
Fairy godmother.
But it's literally
The
in
dragon.
contradiction with each other. Because if you can be whatever you want and you can express yourself however you want, like a fairy godmother, then how come you have to change your entire body in order to then be
Express
considered-
yourself that way. Yeah.
Exactly.
Great point.
Exactly.
Huh.
And I'm sure like somebody will come up with some argument of like, oh, well, it's because that's what they wanted to be. They wanted to be that, where they transition their body and everything. And it's like, okay, but that's literally in conflict with the whole idea of expressing yourself. And actually, like, if it's all just a social construct, why the fuck do you have to do all that? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
That's literally in conflict. That's not social
I
construct.
can't just be like, all right, it's what it is.
It's a physical construct. Exactly. That's physical. You're doing something physical now. If it's actually a social construct, right?
Yeah.
And so it's funny because that's the medium for everything in between. That's the medium for everything in between. That's the medium for gender fluidity, for, I identify as this. I don't even know. There's like, there's hundreds of these things. Right? I don't know all of them.
Gender fluid to me always sounds disgusting.
You want my gender fluid?
Like, it's just like, why do they use that term?
I left some gender fluid in my
Like
in my
flow.
toilet earlier today.
More fluids. I don't know.
Drink more fluids.
Yeah. But I guess the point that I was making is just how these things are used to confuse people, and how easy it is to get confused when you don't have a high vocabulary, or when your education is what our current education is. Because it's like, just throw this in, then pepper that, then this, then that. Like we talked a few podcasts ago about the concept of, hey, there's a big story that's coming out, hit them with another big story. You don't want them to follow the trace of this one that leads back to you, hit them with another big story, and then another one, and another one, and another one. And it's like
DJ Khaled.
Another one. Yeah. But like, that's what we're seeing with our current narratives in general is, hey, there's this big thing about pedophilia. Do you guys
How
remember
many
that?
transgender people are there in China?
One.
Look, all the forest fires in California.
Are they doing that again?
Oh, yeah. Whatever happened to those?
COVID.
What happened to
But seriously, are there transgender people in China?
Let me see.
Transgender
Chinese transgender?
in
I-
China.
I thought he was just giving
I
another.
doubt it.
Oh, there's a whole Wikipedia.
0.5%
0.5. That's a
from
lot of
6 to
people.
12, and 0.6 often state the wish to be the other gender. What it's like to be transgender in China.
What percent?
0.5%, which to me sounds like a lot of people. Like if you got 1 billion people, 0.5%, that's a pretty
Consider-
decent number.
Listen, this person considers the question, quote, "Why are you not happy that you were born a man?" That's because, she says, I'm already confused. In order to live like a man, I should drink more, be stronger, have many girlfriends, play rugby, do manly things. So because this person is educated in this way, they think being a man means you have to drink more, be stronger, like than you actually are, have many girlfriends, play rugby, and do manly things.
You don't have to do any of that.
It says Chow, who describes herself as gender fluid and prefers female pronouns, giggles as she covers her bright red lipsticked mouth with a hand. And it's fascinating because why does a man have to play rugby? Why does a man have to have many girlfriends? Why does a man have to drink more? That's a reaction to
Probably her
brainwashing.
father or a brother.
Some specific thing, image, that's TV, that's brainwashing. Well, we're not suggesting men have to play rugby, men have to do X, Y, and Z. It's just that being a man physically means something. Being a woman physically means something. And you should be able to work it out with common sense. You would be able to if you're self-honest. So it's not like we have the version that everyone has to follow, like we just arbitrarily making it up. But in terms of the current context of the world that we live in, just look at it, just the current context of the world. Like we were talking about earlier, right, Jess? You're talking about if you're jogging down the street, you're going to consider that there's going to be men out there or whatever the particular context is, right?
I
If we
have
live in a-
literally
Yeah.
gone to the station for our light rail before. I was just sitting there.
Light rail, like public transit
Yeah,
train thing.
whatever. Well, this man walks by and I don't look up and he just asked for some change. And I was like, I don't have any, like, have a good day. Thought he had walked by because I lost him in my peripheral. 2 seconds later, he slides next to me on this bench, throws himself on top of me. And I'm like, stop touching me. He continued, he got his body off of me, but then he put his hand on my leg. And I was like,
Wow.
stop touching me. and he gets up, and I thought he was going to walk away again, but he goes and he stands right in front of me. He puts his hand behind my head, and he starts taking his pants off. And I said, just because I acknowledged your existence does not mean you can take advantage of me. Walk away. And he walked away. But I'm going to tell you right now, like, ever since that day, I have never been able to walk down the street alone off guard, like, ever since that happened. Because a part of me knows that if I am not paying attention to what's going on around me, there is potential that somebody will take advantage of me simply because I'm there, not because of anything else about me, just because I'm simply there and I am a woman and I'm alone. That's it. It doesn't matter what I'm wearing. It doesn't matter any of that. But what I wear and how I choose to express myself can make me more of a target. And so I take that into consideration too. I used to work downtown and live downtown, and I used to have to walk over a mile to get to and from work. And I'd have to walk street level because the Skyway would be closed when I'd get off. And it was like 11 o'clock or later at night, right? That's like a significant thing. So I would go to work in, a suit that has a skirt and pantyhose and heels at work. After work, I'd go change and I'd put on a jumpsuit, like if I was working at, like a mechanic,
like coveralls with grease and like paint all over it, and like a little baseball cap.
I'd put that on, and at the time I had a shaved head,
like some
so
like brown
I didn't have to cover up hair too much.
Yeah.
And
like,
then,
hey guys,
yeah, and then
how was the football game yesterday?
I literally would have to like just cover my whole body up, right? And I'd go from work home, and it's a significant point.
Let's look at that for a second. So does it make sense for men to have a stable relationship?
Yes.
Because men who are in a stable relationship aren't going to do that. Men who are emotionally stable, mentally stable, etc., have a purpose, aren't going to do that. So this is a function of everything being fucked in our society versus it's men. Men are the problem.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I wouldn't let my children just walk around on that train station either by themselves, would I?
Exactly.
Why not? Even if I know Max isn't going to jump off the train station and hurt himself, like he's going to just walk around and be fine. Why wouldn't I let him do that?
Other people.
Right. But because I know they're unstable, right? They don't have the basic points met. And it's not just about their food and water. It's mental stability. It's other basic points, education. I want you to imagine a poor person thrown into the middle of a bunch of people, let's say capitalists, who are like, we need cheap labor. How is that any different than that situation you faced? And they're like, just because I'm here doesn't mean, it's like, well, but that's the system we're in, isn't it? And so from that same perspective, that's the reality of where things are at. So name one country on this planet that values individual freedom. Like, for example, you said, just because I'm here doesn't mean that, just because I acknowledge your existence doesn't mean you have a right to touch me or anything, right? What if the guy said, I can do whatever I want? You don't have a right to resist. So isn't that what a collectivist society says? You don't have a right. Like, wear the mask. You don't have a right. You do what we say. Which is ironic because wouldn't you agree the same people who are all about the masks are all about abortion rights? So same, it's like the Venn diagram is a circle. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's people who are doing it just because they're afraid of social shame and so forth. But I'm talking about people who are really in your face, like, you got to do it. Guarantee you ask them, like, is abortion a right? What would they say?
Oh yeah,
my body, my choice.
8 9 out of, yeah. Well, but it doesn't hurt anybody else. Well,
except the baby
being inside of you.
What?
And, yeah.
Doesn't even make any sense.
Wouldn't that hurt the grandparents the most? If you really care about grandparents, you would think abortion would be like off limits. You're literally murdering them as grandparents because you're making them not exist as grandparents.
Oh.
So,
Can't be
but it's not about choice. It's not about freedom, right? But the reason I'm saying that is because
The only choice they have is to have unprotected sex with someone who's unstable in an unstable situation or not. That's the choice that they have.
And
But
to be
after
able
they've
to
made that
erase
choice,
their consequences. That's the choices that they have.
Wait, say,
I'm
say
not
that
against
again.
abortion, by the way.
Wait, say that again. Jess?
I said they made the decision
Yeah.
Have sex.
to have sex in a
Someone who's
way.
getting an abortion.
Like if their situation was unstable, if the husband was unstable, like whatever that was, like sometimes
Hold on, listen. People
situation
have to
where-
have sex.
What was
That's
that?
not people
People
have to have sex. The problem isn't, well, they had sex, they made the choice. The problem is they're uneducated. Because if you have a child, why wouldn't you be like, awesome, amazing? People have to have sex. And a lot of times, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but a lot of times people say that like, well, you shouldn't have sex. And it's like, that's a need. That's a human need.
Well, not just sex in general. I said unprotected sex. Like you're just going around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's a difference between directing it, being purposeful about it, and being aware
Definitely.
of yourself while you're doing it, and being aware of your needs when you do it, instead of like it as an addiction or just different things like
Yeah.
that, where it's like very purposeful.
Right, because the sex that they're having is from a perhaps either emotional need or they're just being impulsed. And the thing is, if you don't want to have a kid, you won't have a kid. Whether you have unprotected sex or not. If you don't want to have a kid, you won't have a kid.
Is that true, Cameron? You're gonna have to explain that more, because a lot of people who would say, I didn't want a kid and I got pregnant.
You didn't want a kid. So what? It's like the reverse law of attraction. When you actively don't want something.
You get that too.
Versus what I'm saying is like, if you are directing the point, I'm not going to have a child, versus I don't want a kid, I don't want a kid. Those are two different things. You see what I mean?
That makes sense.
So if you're not afraid of it, what's the big deal? So I want to go back to this other point though. The reason why it's a problem, all of this stuff that we're seeing around transgender, gay, lesbian promotion, all this stuff, again, it's not about at the individual level, I am dictating what that person does or doesn't do. Because at the end of the day, the freedom of the individual to express themselves, if they're literally not hurting other people, is their freedom. That's part of what makes being alive here pretty cool, because you can express yourself. Of course, no one really has experienced what that self-expression really is like, because we're so limited by our survival needs, right? And the system that we live in. But when it becomes a marketed, advertised, deliberately impulsed thing, where you're deliberately putting into every institution, this is the discussion. You must talk about these things. You must think about these things. You must tell your children this. We're going to put it on the TV and the products, everything. That's not individual choice. Because on a statistical basis, there's going to be a certain percentage of people who end up being gay or end up being transgender or whatever. That's going to happen. And that's okay. That's not like, and I'm not saying, the problem is then you say, well, the reason why more people aren't gay or transgender or whatever is because we're brainwashing everyone not to be. So what we need to do is brainwash everyone to be gay and lesbian and transgender and all this stuff. That's just an excuse to do it. You see what I'm saying? No one's being brainwashed to be straight. You don't have to be brainwashed to be straight. Does that make sense?
Very heteronormative of you to say.
Right. You see what I mean? You see what I mean? But if I said you're trying to brainwash people to be gay, they would say, oh, that's terrible. How could you say that?
That's
like, you just said it about the other people.
Homophobic. Yeah.
So it's like a way of making you feel ashamed about the thing that they want to do.
Right.
And it's not the gay people that are doing it per se. although they're participating in it. And a lot of people who aren't gay are participating in that particular case of gay versus straight. But there's a specific point where it's being impulsed across the board. It fits a certain agenda. And then it's the expectation that everybody else, because they're being impulsed by it and they want to fit in and so forth, is just going to go along with it and enforce it on each other. But the point that's most sinister about it is the point where you're doing it on children. Like you're seeing children's shows now where they're talking about racism, anti-racism, choosing your gender, and so forth. Children at that age need to be told what reality is, not choose your own reality. Because if you really want to,
oh, dude, that's just like that fucking spaceship book that you're talking about. Everyone's creating their own reality.
Right.
And that's what you have to give up in order to save the fucking world.
You have to get to reality. You have to say, like, this is what reality is. And now within that, let's figure out a way to get everybody what they need. That'll take care a lot of, like, the reason why transgender people don't fit in. The reason why they feel that they have so much psychological stress and so forth is not because they don't fit into society. It's because they don't know who they are. And they're being taken advantage of by saying, you don't need to figure out who you are. It's these people not letting you fit in. You're actually this. So if someone reacts to, well, I don't want to play rugby and drink a lot of drinks, so I don't feel comfortable. The problem was that was the only option that they were given because they're in a society where why is everybody playing rugby and drinking all the time?
Yeah.
It's not because men are a problem or because you're transgender. It's because no one has any real purpose and we're just fitting into all the consumer activities to keep us as slaves in this economic system. You see, so to be clear to anybody listening, it's like, I'm not against gay people or trans people or black people or whatever. It's the focus on these topics is a mind control point to keep us in a state where we're literally disempowering ourselves while we're pretending and performing this whole thing of like, we're stopping oppression in this world, and you're literally not doing anything. Because, and the real point I'm trying to get to is with China, they just want to overtake the United States as a superpower. That's all it is. And they're using all of this freedom against the West. They're taking the ideas of freedom and individualism and subverting it into a way where you feel guilty about it. You shouldn't have a right to it. Because your right to individuality is impinging on other people's right to individuality. And yet at the same time, they're saying what you're doing is making other people feel like they can't be an individual. Like, why is it that all gay people have to think the same? Why can't gay people be Republicans? You know, not that I'm defending being Republican or Democrat, but I'm saying in the context of their logic, why can't a gay person be any political thing they choose? Why do they have to be a Democrat? Because it's not really about individual, like you as who you are being an individual. It's about you subverting the idea that you have a right to do what is actually best, to actually stand up and defend what is best, versus go along with whatever everyone else is saying and use the idea that you're an individual and that you're expressing yourself as the cover for actually oppressing people. You see what I'm saying?
It's so true. It's so true that if you take somebody from the oppressed identity group and you put them as a Republican, they're automatically no longer oppressed. They have white privilege. In other words, they become the thing that needs to be taken out. Even if they're part of the groups that you're supposed to be defending, if they're a Milo Yiannopoulos, that's why him as a symbol is so funny, because it's like the reason why he played into, like, for those of you who don't know Milo Yiannopoulos, it's like this gay person who is like a staunch Republican.
Former gay now.
Former gay?
Former gay, apparently.
Jesus Christ. So anyways, it's very clear that he has like problems, but the point is he played into this point that people would react so heavily that he's gay and Republican. But it's a great point. I don't know if you're really hearing what Cameron's saying, is saying that you don't have a right to express yourself as a gay Republican. You have a right to express yourself as a gay person. But if it's not the thing that we want you expressing, then you don't have a right to express it. So, but the problem with it is that we're covering it under this umbrella of everyone should be free to express themselves how they want.
And the added point is, if the majority of people were gay, how stable would society be?
We wouldn't have society.
It wouldn't. And that's not because gay people equals bad. It's not because of that. It's because it doesn't biologically work.
It's like
It
you
doesn't
literally
physically work. So it's like, well, I'm born into this male body. I don't like it. I don't want to be male. I'm going to wear dresses. It's like, I'm going to change my body. I'm going to cut myself up and add pieces and take pieces off and all this stuff. And then guess what? I'm still just a slave surviving in the system. The problem is when you think that suddenly you're now I've got it. I'm expressing myself. And it's so funny. Like when you watch like that transgender assistant health secretary or whatever, right? This Rachel Levine person. And it's like, they're just a fucking bureaucrat in the system enforcing the same fucking system. It's like now they've got a trans person there, so it looks like, look, we're advancing as a society. It'd be like literally, okay, if the Nazis were really fucking smart, before anybody invaded their concentration camps, they would have just put like a gay Jewish gypsy up in the guard tower and been like, oh, but look, diversity hire. And have that person guarding everybody. And then they would have been like, oh shit. Okay, no, this is good. This is all good. As long as you got enough diverse guards in your guard towers. That's literally what all this shit is. It's like, look, we have a woman as vice president. Look, we have women in combat roles. Isn't this amazing? I'm like, you have women now going out and killing people, and they have kids at home. So like, what does your mom do? My mom's a combat pilot. Like, what? My mom's a Navy SEAL.
Amazing.
What?
How empowering.
How is that child going to get the nurturing that they need from their mother when their mom's literally out there killing people? That's her job. Why does she even need to do that? Does that make any sense? Like, can you imagine the people who I would have thought would have been traditionally anti-war are glad that gay and transgender people can serve in the military, but also the military is terrible. It's like, what? It's not about actual consistent logic based on principles.
Just like outrage culture. It's like finding the next thing to be outraged about and being upset. And then it really is, it goes back to that oppressor and oppressed polarity. And so whoever's oppressed from our perception, like that's who we need to fight for. Meanwhile,
imagine if you were playing chess with somebody, and every time they were about to move, you reminded them that any move that they do that advances their position is an act of oppression, and they should feel ashamed about it. So they literally only ever played so that you would win. That's exactly what's happening right now.
Yeah. Instead of you just becoming a badass fucking chess player, and then
right,
what's
that
interesting
requires
is
them to
like
change.
the best thing will emerge then.
It's also not about blaming China. I'm not anti-Chinese either. It's just that's where the system is at right now. It's like, gotta make a change, gotta generate more energy, gotta create conflict, gotta create a war. So we gotta switch it all up now. But within that, the unpredictability, like the human mind is becoming more and more unstable, as you can see playing out in reality. So the control systems, the technologies are also being put in place, as we can see, to control everybody. So the problem is, in this point in history, it's not just it's just another superpower. Who cares? US was a superpower. It's their turn now. It's like, no, they're going to go to the next step of control, lockdown.
Right.
I mean, look at the language being used, lockdown. That's like a normal thing now. Yeah, we got lockdown.
Right. That used to be only a prison term.
Oh, dude, that was so good.
Or a code red shooting, a code red lockdown in schools.
Did y'all see that Barricade Garage video where he was talking about gun control?
Yeah.
He said, you want to go to a place where, what did he say? It was like, do you want to see a place where...
Oh, where there's gun control? Where there's 100% gun control?
100% gun control.
Yeah.
That go to prison.
Go to a prison, exactly.
Go to prison.
I
You'll
mean, they
see
won't eat
only
dead.
the guards have the guns. No
Yeah.
one else does.
Yeah.
That was such a cool point he said, and I don't know how much he even saw within what he was saying.
How many dimensions there was in what he said.
Yeah, exactly. But it was like,
Because I
That's
think
literally what is being created on our planet right now is
I
a
want you to-
prison.
I want you to clarify that point, because the point that he made was basically, I don't know if this is the only point he made, but I remember what he followed that with was, if somebody wants to kill you, they'll still find a way to kill you.
Right.
And that may have been his only point. I don't know.
I know, but the point
Which is
that I
like,
took-
look, if you think you're going to be safe,
Yeah.
just because they took all the guns away, someone can still kill you if they want to. Like, it's not like they're going to stop you. But it was obvious to me, that point of like, yeah, look at what's happening on this planet right now, especially in the Western countries. It's like they're turning it into a prison where literally, like, your
Like,
Drake, you were talking about this
basically,
person in
what-
Spain.
what you were saying, like what you got from that is the essence of, what taking guns away is a symbol of is, once the prisoners have no guns, then we can tell them to do whatever we want and hold them captive and all that stuff.
Yeah,
That's
we
what you
can
saw
basically
when-
run it like a prison now. It's like,
Ye-
okay,
Yeah.
how many rights do you have in prison?
You can only go outside for 15 minutes twice a day. Or
Yeah,
like
we
whatever.
will tell you what to do, when to do it, and if you don't like it, we'll just put you in isolation.
That's
Someone
what
someone
Canada,
else.
The hotels are, right? It's like you can only eat at this time. They give you the food, by the way, and everything.
And people are defending it.
Someone.
And at the same time, those are the people who 6 months ago were like, I mean, these Republicans and Trump, I just can't believe it. I mean, you wonder how Hitler got into power and how the Germans just let him walk right into power. And I can see it clearly. And then fast forward, like, as soon as the guy's gone, they're like, all right, get to the concentration camps, everybody. And you're like, dude, what the fuck? Like, were he just like 5 months ago complaining about all
Well,
the
they
Nazis
were
everywhere?
arguing for prison reform, so here it is.
It's like, if you were actually a Nazi, like, who was really smart, you'd be like the one calling everybody else Nazis. Do you know what I mean? And just getting everybody so into a point of fear and control that you could then manipulate them.
That's
You wouldn't be the guy running around in a Nazi uniform.
It's the same thing that you do when you fart. You just say, "What's that smell? It smells like you farted, dude."
Yeah, exactly.
If you're trying to hide your fart. I fart with my boys though.
I fart on my boys.
But but you know what I'm saying though? Like if you broke something and you're like, fuck, what do I do? Like, my parents about to come home. It's like your parents come home and you're like, oh my God, like there's this broken thing on the ground. Like, what happened? I don't know. Right? Like, did you break it? They're like, no, I didn't break it. You're like, okay, sick, I'm in the clear. Like, you just start accusing other people of the crime, quote unquote. Right?
So someone was making this point of like how we have police in our society and people don't want police and all that, right? They're saying if everyone walked around and carried a gun and they were trained and educated on how to use a gun properly, right? We would become the police. The people would become the police in a good way, as in like we would be the ones regulating ourselves. We would still have police, but then they would just carry out the like more of the official duties.
It's not that you would have the authority of it. It's just people would know I can't walk in somewhere and start shooting people because in 1 second I'm gone. I'm dead.
Right. Exactly.
And isn't
like,
that obvious?
It is. But also,
But what's the argument people use against it?
is then everybody would be shooting each other. We'd all be dying. Or it's like something ridiculous like that, right?
Which is like literally the only people actually doing that right now are the criminals.
Right.
Like the people who are not, who are the vast majority, could be doing that and aren't. So it's obviously not true.
Yeah. And so I was looking at this from the same perspective of like everything in our society is like that, where we need to become equal with like, yeah, we can still have the people in those specialized positions, but we need to become equal to that in everything. So like in medicine, we need to be understand our own bodies and what's like actual nutrition and everything for ourselves. And then you can have these specialized people who, yeah, there's a doctor who does surgery or whatever, or even there's these doctors who they're working on what is the science behind all this and explaining it so that when it comes out, it's like, hey, we worked on this thing. Everyone's like, oh, fuck, I understand this. I get this, rather than this point that we have right now of just like major fear of like, everyone's just like, oh, what do we do? You know, but we have to become equal in everything in our society in that way.
Yeah, no one wants to say anything because if you say anything and you get ostracized, you don't get to be a part of the group anymore.
The only
You know?
way to actually be free is to be self-dependent on your income. You can't.
Yeah, in the current system.
Yeah, I mean, right now, it's like the number one fear that will come up is I'm going to lose my job, or I'll get blacklisted. Like somehow if I go to look for employment, they'll know that, I was called a racist at some point,
Right.
or I was associated with somebody who was racist or whatever. It's like, it just comes back to this point of not being able to make money. You're not going to be able to survive, right? At the essence of it.
That's funny. That's like COVID. Like you're associated with someone who had COVID, so you have to quarantine. Like you're associated with someone who was racist, so you have to,
Can you imagine like a person who's okay? I have to. If I get accused of these things, I can't get a job. But that means there's a company who's like, we're not going to hire you because of that. Which means there's a company that says we care about the perception if we hire this person. Which means that there's people, media out there who will attack a company if that person is a part of their thing. Now imagine if literally no one in the world gave a shit, but the companies still cared about the perception. And so there was AI that would just generate articles and like create comments and shit, talking shit about the company. But it wasn't actually any people doing it, but the company would still be like, oh, we have this perception, we can't do that. So still go along with it. You could literally just automate all of that.
wow.
So even if you think, well, people just need to stand up, you don't even know if anybody's actually fucking thinking these things. You talk to the average person, and the average person doesn't care. The only people who seem to really care about this kind of shit is, ironically, teenagers. That's obvious. Like teenagers / young people, 20s and so forth, who like literally they have nothing else to do. They're like, I have no fucking life. I work at Starbucks. I got nothing. When I look up the word in the dictionary, the only word I see is dumbass. That's the only word in there that I see, right? Like they literally have nothing to do. And they're on drugs. And they're getting passionate. And they see all the problems in the system. They don't know what to do about it. So they're like, yeah, fuck it, and they're stupid. And then there's like the white liberals. And that's the people who care about it. That's pretty much it. That's it. No one actually gives a shit.
Yeah.
If you talk to people who are actually focused on, hey, I actually just want to live my life and like be nice to people and so forth, they don't care about this.
You made this great point of like how, we'll go through all this stuff to make sure we survive coronavirus, just so we can try to continue to survive. It's like, what are you fighting for?
Right. It's finite.
It's like,
think about this. What if the end of the universe is actually going to happen? The end of reality, the end of the world is actually going to happen. It's not about the apocalypse. It's just there is going to be an end. And even if you live for 1 billion years, you're going to get to the end. So even though it seems like a long way away right now, so does 50 years from now, but it'll eventually happen. You'll be there. So no matter how long you delay it, eventually you're going to experience the end. What was the point of trying to just compromise your whole experience just so you could survive?
Like there's somebody out there who is like not leaving their house, who's not having anybody over, who has on plastic gloves, who like isn't really seeing their family members. It's just them, and they're keeping their kids like 6 feet away or whatever. And that's like what their life consists of. And they're speeding to go get the vaccine, trying to butt the line and shit to ensure that they can maintain that. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like in terms of what we want to survive.
That's life now.
Exactly. It's like that's what we need to preserve. And that idea of we accept so little of what we're actually capable of. This is what we're accepting. Like, okay, now everybody stop going outside. Okay, now everybody stop leaving your room and give me the key to the fucking lock on the door.
Dude, and the biggest one is the people thinking it's just, we just have to do it for now so we can stop the virus and then everything get back to normal. And it's like, you're still going to be saying that 10 years from now? I mean, remember when it was 15 days? And then it was months. Remember, we said from the very beginning, we were like, this is just going to be how it is now. Everyone's accepting it, so they're going to continue doing it. And you still have people saying, if everyone would just get the vaccine and do it, we could just get over with. It's like, that's not really what's going to happen, right? That's not it's like if you were in a relationship where the person was trying to abuse you and like they would talk some shit to you and you wouldn't talk back. They're not going to be like, what are they going to do? They're going to be like, oh, sweet, I can just treat you like that now.
Yeah.
You're not going to do anything.
That's exactly.
Why would they ever not continue.
It's funny. Like I was talking with someone yesterday, and I was just telling them, like, just straight up, like, yo, I love Florida. I love being able to just walk around and go into a place and nobody says anything about you're not wearing a mask or anything like that. Like, and because this person was living out of state and came for the wedding, and I noticed that they had a mask, so I just wanted to push up against that, and it was funny because all he could say was, "That's interesting. So you like that?" And I'm like, "Fuck yes, I like that. Like, what is there?"
Like, what is freedom?
Yeah. And it's funny because I know what that person was feeling, because I've been on the other end of that, where it's like somebody is really outspoken about what they believe in, what they stand up for, and I disagree with them, but I don't know how to, like, I don't want to face that conflict. You know what I mean? That's what I see is like the thing that's going on now. And that's what makes those groups, those, like Black Lives Matter, or like the identity groups, right? That's what makes them so
You know what
powerful.
would be amazing is if instead of saying stop Asian hate, they said stop yellow hate. Would that
Why?
not be amazing?
Why?
It would just
Because
be
they
funny.
couldn't say it without everyone saying it's racist.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-mm.
Like if you're like, oh, look at that yellow person.
In the
That's
same
like-
way that they say black.
Right.
They'd be like, that's fucking racist, right?
Yeah.
But if you say black, it's not racist. If you say
Right.
white, it's not racist.
Right. Yeah. No, that's funny.
But I just think that'd be amazing if they would, instead of saying stop, because they say Black Lives Matter, right? What if you said yellow? What if you started a movie called Yellow Lives Matter?
That would be fucking hilarious.
People would try to figure out, is this ironic or not?
Yeah.
They wouldn't know.
Oh, and remember that thing that you said about when you can't tell a difference between something that's being satirical or ironic?
Pose
and
law.
comedy.
Pose, yeah.
Yeah, pose law. And you can't tell the difference between that and reality. That's when things are.
Hey, Max is asking if he can come up here and explain something to us.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Are you guys down with that?
Yeah.
Max-
Let's do it.
only if
This
is
only
Max's
if the
corner.
viewers, only if the viewers and listeners like, subscribe.
Yeah. Okay. So before we let him come up, everybody comment below if you want Max to come up. Okay,
And then
we're
we'll
gonna check the
decide.
comments.
Yeah.
Well, we talk about these dimensions, right? I mean, let's just jump into one of these time dimensions.
time doesn't
circle,
exist.
Circle back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Time is a social construct.
Okay. I checked the comments. All right. We're good. So post a comment. Even if you post it now, I can still see it in reverse time. So that's good.
Time is a social construct. Age isn't real. You're not killing old people. You're killing everybody.
But the point that I was making is we have to become the vocal ones and actually like
Like every day that goes by, not every day that goes by, every time we do this podcast and we talk about that point, that specific point of what you're actually seeing on social media is like the extreme.
yeah.
It's because that quote that we all heard of, evil, like the only way evil prevails is when good men say nothing or do nothing or whatever. What is
Right.
it?
Right. Yeah. It's basically that.
It's basically that in essence, right? So it's like, man, that's such a good point. It's like, if the people who just wanted to live their life, quote unquote, were used the same things that the actual oppressors use, then things would be fine. But we're all pussies, right? We all want to avoid conflict,
Well, pussy boy.
and girls. Yeah,
Pussy girl.
did you check the comments, Cameron?
All these guys are like trying to get pussy, right? And they can't figure out why they can't. I'm like, stop being one.
Yeah, it's not like attracts like.
There's only enough room for one in your life.
It's opposites attract. Be a
I
dick.
don't know. I texted Katie. I don't know if she saw it. Let me go
Yeah.
tell her.
And like the thread throughout all of this is like, for those who have it in them to stand up and can hear this message, join fucking Self-Perfected and share this and talk with people about this. Otherwise, the system is going to keep collapsing. It's going to keep getting even more extreme. And one day it's going to be too late.
Hmm.
And you're going to be sitting there like, damn, we are actually in prison. It's like Spain.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's Spain stuff.
Yeah.
Maximus.
Hi, Max. What's up?
What's up, dude?
You like zucchini now?
I like zucchini.
Oh, why are you talking about zucchini? Tell us about that.
Well,
Cameron, did you get a haircut, Cameron?
I'm like a little slice of zucchini, and I liked it.
Give you a little slice of zucchini, and at first did you not want it or something?
No, at first I wanted it.
Oh, okay.
And then I
Matt,
took it.
Max, was it raw or cooked?
Raw.
I like zucchini too. I like raw zucchini. I like cooked zucchini too.
What else do you have?
Um,
You have some zucchini in the bowl. What else?
I brought an apple.
You look good in that shirt, Max.
That's a nice shirt. What's it say?
You could wait. You got that kind of jacket.
What is it?
Sweater, yeah.
So perfect. I've got so perfected. I'm
Max, what does that mean? What does self-perfected mean?
well, there is like basically like a group, self-perfected group.
That is what it represents. Yeah, it represents the group. That's cool. You know that we're doing the podcast right now, right?
Here, I'll do speaker mode. That way you can see you. Okay.
Hey, can you see me now?
Okay. So
Um,
what did you want to tell everybody? You had said you
Yeah.
had a plan for what you want to tell them.
Well, I want to tell you. I wanted to tell you about my bike.
Oh,
Ooh.
what's your
My
bike?
bike.
Talk about it.
Look, at first I didn't want to do it, but then today I got out in the rain. I did it.
Ooh.
We did it all the way out. We went all the way around the neighborhood.
Woo!
Nice.
Tell us about that process. What was it like yesterday when you got the bike?
Well, we had to build it.
We had to build it, and then what?
And then we had to do stuff.
Well, we went outside, and you rode it for a little bit, and then what happened?
So now
You fell down, and then what?
I just don't want to ride.
Didn't want to ride it anymore. And then what?
Then we just kept driving. And then at the end, when we got to the soccer field, I didn't want to ride it when we went home.
Right. And then that was yesterday, right? So what changed today? Why did you want to do it all of a sudden?
Because it was raining.
Ah, so you found a way to make it more fun for yourself? What did you learn in TechnoTutor today?
That was funny.
Do you remember what you learned in TT?
Well,
Ask Katie.
Katie, what did I learn about in TechnoTutor? Katie!
Did you do bike stuff?
Mm-mm.
No, not bike stuff, something else. Huh? What did Max do in TT today? He said you did bike and music stuff. Isn't that cool? You don't even have to remember it. Okay, let's do a spelling contest. Are you ready?
Oh, snap.
Oh boy.
Okay. Okay, Drake is contestant number 1. Max is contestant number 2. Asif is 3, and Mitch is 4. Okay?
I can make me one,
Okay.
Drake two.
Mitch 3, Asif 4. Okay. Contestant number 1. Spell the word cat.
Katie.
Correct. Contestant number 2. Spell the word
Ambershort.
umber.
Dang it. Dang it. EMBOUCHURE. Embouchure.
What was wrong about it?
Yeah.
There are no R's.
No R's.
In embouchure?
Are you sure?
You hold on. You spell the word embouchure.
E-M. Okay, how do you spell the word embouchure? Under
But
E-R?
you just do it the way you think it is. Because I think you're second guessing it.
Wait, what did you say?
Embouchure.
E-M-B-O-U-C-H-U-R-E.
Nice.
So there
Wow.
is an R,
There
There's an R.
is an R.
Did you do
Drake
it?
spelled it right too.
but you weren't sure if you did it in the right place.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes you have to trying to remember which order he did it in. Okay, very good. Contestant number 3. Spell the word
A what?
Intermediate.
and no, advanced.
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 A better word.
ADVANCED. Advanced.
CED.
Is that right?
ADVAN. Did you say any N's?
He did.
Advanced. CED.
Oh,
Yes. Nice. We both got it right.
that's really cool.
We're both pretty advanced in our
Pretty
spelling.
good. Okay, contestant number 4. Spell the word saxophone.
You know, let's do let's do a sentence.
Whoa.
A
Okay.
sentence.
What's the sentence? Oh, here we go. Okay, can you read this? But say it loud so we can hear.
Spell. Okay, no, let's
Okay,
do
okay.
it. Spell the elegant universe.
The Elegant Universe.
Mm.
THE space ELEGANT space
Did you
UNIVERS.
do D when you spelled elegant?
Yes.
In the middle?
Yes.
Okay. Universe?
Yeah. So space after elegant. UNIVERSE. Am I right?
EERF. Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
I made it on
say
to the next
this
round.
sentence. Do this sentence. What does it say?
Super strings hidden dimensions. And the cross will be a dimension.
What is that word?
Can you remove the mic a little bit?
Infinite. Intimate here.
Theory. What's that word? We need to put that one in TT.
Theory.
Ultimate.
Ultimate.
Ultimate theory. Yeah. You said superstrings, hidden dimensions, and the quest for the ultimate theory. The only one he wasn't sure about was ultimate. So we'll put that in the Technotutor. That's
How
pretty.
old are you,
cool.
Max? How old are you? Hey,
Hold on.
Max,
Do it as an algebra problem where the variable is your age. Can you do it as an algebra problem? So they have to figure it out.
For
You can't tell them the number. Make that the variable.
X plus 2 equals 9.
Is that right? Would X be your age?
Mm,
What would the equals have to be? X plus 2 equals what? So that your age would be X.
6.
Okay, so tell them the algebra problem.
what?
Tell them again. Tell them the whole problem.
Y
Okay.
plus 2 equals 6.
Y plus 2 equals.
So your age is Y.
What the heck, dude? You know, it's funny because the first reaction is like, Cameron, like, don't ask such a difficult question. You know what I mean? It's so cool. That's amazing, Max. That's really amazing.
See, but that's just the most basic algebra. So then we'll work our way up and
I
get.
was looking at it the other day. I think it's 13-year-olds are supposed to be able to do what you do.
Yeah, that's when they start
Around
introducing.
12, 13-year-old.
Good.
Who's that?
Yes.
Say,
Yes.
what's up, Jess.
Jessica, look. At first I didn't like zucchini, but now I like zucchini.
What changed, Max?
Well, Kay gave me a slice of zucchini raw, and then I tasted it. It was very good, and then I just wanted more and more.
And Max, how was the zucchini prepared the first time you ate it? Was it raw or was it cooked the first time you ate it when you didn't like it?
I don't know because it was a long time ago.
Oh, okay. Got it. But you remembered the first experience of you having zucchini, you didn't like the taste, but the second you did.
No. This time very like this one's very light.
When he says when he says he didn't like it, he just means he hadn't had it, and he had made the decision he didn't like it. But then
Oh,
he had it, and he actually did, so he didn't stop himself from trying it.
Just
Max,
He was assuming he didn't like it.
got it.
Max, was this the first time you ever ate zucchini?
When have you had it before?
Well, I don't remember. Well, actually, this is.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Maybe you might have had it cooked buttery, but it doesn't. It's not the same as when it's raw.
Mhm.
I think.
I enjoy raw zucchini as well, Max.
Cameron, did you get hooked up again?
Yeah, but I probably did that myself.
I only noticed when you came back with Max, you look fresh.
Yeah.
Nice. Hooked up. Alrighty. Max, you want to tell everybody?
That reminds me, by the way, I was going to tell you guys about my barber. His barber shop is next to in this strip center, and there's like a clinic there, right? And during like the past, few 4 or 5 months, whatever, during the pandemic, there was always like this long line of cars of people going in there to get. I guess it wasn't that long, maybe the past few months of people getting their vaccine or getting tested. That was the big thing, like them constantly getting tested.
Right.
As soon as they lifted the mask mandate, and I didn't notice this until I went there and he pointed it out. He was like, look out the window. And I looked out, no cars.
Wow.
He was like, it's like suddenly no one cares anymore.
That's so.
Whoa.
I'm telling you, every time I went, it was like I had to navigate because there's so many cars in the parking lot and everything.
That's
The moment they lift the mask mandate, it's like no one cares. And
so great.
it's one thing to when you go in the grocery store to see who's wearing it, it still seems like a lot of people, kind of like Drake was saying. But that was a really specific indicator because that's people
Yeah.
going to get tested and all that. And I was like, wow, you're right. Like there's no one there.
Wow.
Fascinating.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Hey,
So-
Max, I saw you got a push bike. Is that what it's called? A push
Oh yeah,
bike?
he was talking about that earlier.
Our
Balance
bike?
bike.
It's called a balance bike. Although his isn't actually a balance bike. It's just a bike where you can easily take the pedals off.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Cindy has a balance bike.
Did you guys get one for Seneca and then you got one for Max, or?
Well, we actually got both, but it just took longer to come in the mail because we got it from a different place.
Okay, that makes sense.
She's already getting it to where she can go down with her feet up and everything.
So cool. The
It's,
videos-
it's only been like maybe 3 or 4 days. 4
Yeah.
days.
Wow.
so
That's cool.
That's awesome. Cool.
Max, you want to tell everybody to like the podcast videos and
Do you think
audios?
people should give us a thumbs up on the video when we post it on YouTube?
Yeah,
Should they share it with people?
definitely.
Should they make a comment and say, "Hey, this is a cool video," or
Yeah,
other stuff?
yeah.
What else should they comment? What,
Should
do you,
they give-
what would you comment, Max? What would your comment be?
I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Should people buy T-shirts from Self Perfected? Why? Why would you have a Self Perfected T-shirt?
Because then they would get it.
Why would that be good for them to have it?
Wow.
Like, what do you like wearing those shirts?
Wow.
Yeah, they always like putting on their Self Perfected. What about your spell shirt? Do you like that one too? You know, Drake and Jess designed that.
Mhm.
And they got it all made and everything. Isn't that cool? You just make any shirt you want.
Drake just showed his shirt and Max was like, he has the same shirt.
Yeah, again.
Do
Do
it
it
again.
again. Do it again.
Mhm.
Check it out.
Yep. Isn't that cool? All right,
Cool.
everybody, check out the website.
Yeah.
Yes. Stay tuned for next
Yay,
week.
Max.
Share them all before that we get removed. Yes, Max, represent.
We'll
Awesome.
definitely get removed after this.
This is our last one.
Edgy one.
This is our
Bye,
last one. Not by our choice. We're gonna get shut down. So
Hey, nice hat, Asif.
Comment if you
Thanks.
want us to get shut down. Okay.
nice.
Nice one.
Okay.